Regional Conference, South and Central Gujarat Summit 2026. Myself, Divya Thakkar, welcome you all on behalf of Surat Municipal Corporation. Vibrant Gujarat Regional Conference Summit in South Gujarat, and it is in the Diamond City, Surat. So firstly, here we would like to invite all distinguished guests on the dais. First of all, let, let me invite Ms. Anna Roy, Advisor, Niti Aayog, Government of India. It is our immense pleasure that she's here with us in today's seminar. Everybody put your hands together and let's welcome her. Welcome, ma'am. We are very much grateful to have you here. Mr. Gopal Prasad, IRS Economic Advisor, Mohua, Government of India. And with your loud clapping, I would like to invite Mr. M. Nagarajan, sir, Municipal Commissioner, Surat Municipal Corporation. Because of his vision and dynamic leadership, we are here in this wonderful seminar. Mr. Sudhir Nayak, Founder and CEO, NCUBE Semicon Private Limited. Welcome, sir. Dr. Punima Dore, Founder and CEO, Dorian Scale Visiting Profile XLRI. We welcome you, ma'am. And Ms. Surjay Tapa Ray, Urban Designer, Janagra Foundation. It is really a vibrant presence of the guests in this vibrant summit seminar and very, very purposeful. As we all know, to achieve the vision of Viksit Bharat 2047, Niti Aayog has identified 4 regions to be developed as engine of growth, and Surat is one of them. So Surat is going to be a progressive, and it is already progressive, city of Gujarat, and Gujarat is one of the fastest progressing region and state of India. So here, first of all, let's start this beautiful seminar with our national song, Vande Mataram. विकसित भारत की दिशा में और प्रगति की ओर एक नया कदम। Vibrant Gujarat Regional Conference, South and Central Gujarat Summit 2026. So, firstly, we would like to felicitate and welcome our distinguished guests who are on the dais. So, I'm requesting Mr. M. Nagarajan, sir, Municipal Commissioner, Surat Municipal Corporation, to please felicitate Ms. Anna Roy, Advisor, Niti Aayog, Government of India. We feel really glad and honored to have you here with us, ma'am. Once again, requesting Municipal Commissioner, sir, to please felicitate Mr. Gopal Prasad, IRS, Economic Advisor, Mohua, Government of India. Now requesting Deputy Municipal Commissioner, Ms. Swati ma'am, to please come forward and felicitate Dr. Purnima Dore, founder and CEO, Dorian Skill Visiting Prof. XLRI. Ms. Ray, Urban Designer, Janagra Foundation, requesting Mr. Manish, Dr. DYMC, to please come forward and felicitate our distinguished panelists and guest. Miss Miss Ray is here with us. Everybody puts your hands together. Put your hands together and welcome her. And Mr. Sudhir Nayak, founder and CEO. I'm requesting Mr. Manish Doctor once again to please felicitate him. Mr. Sudhir Nayak, founder and CEO, NCUBE Samicon Private Limited. Thank you. રાષ્ટ્રીય કક્ષાએ લોજિસ્ટિકનું નેટવર્ક સુધારવા માટે નામદાર ભારત સરકારશ્રીના વાણિજ્ય અને ઉદ્યોગ મંત્રાલય દ્વારા નેશનલ લોજિસ્ટિક પોલિસી મંજૂર કરવામાં આવી, જેને અનુસરીને નામદાર ગુજરાત સરકારશ્રી દ્વારા ઇન્ટિગ્રેટેડ લોજિસ્ટિક એન્ડ લોજિસ્ટિક્સ પાર્ક પોલિસી 2021 મંજૂર કરવામાં આવી, જેની માર્ગદર્શિકા મુજબ રાજ્ય કક્ષાની સંસ્થા ગુજરાત ઇન્ફ્રાસ્ટ્રક્ચર ડેવલપમેન્ટ બોર્ડ ગાંધીનગર દ્વારા સુરત માટે લોજિસ્ટિક પ્લાન પણ તૈયાર કરવામાં આવ્યો. આજની આ કોન્ફરન્સમાં આપણી વચ્ચે સુરતના લીડિંગ ઉદ્યોગ સાહસિકો, ઇન્ડસ્ટ્રીયાલિસ્ટ અને લીડિંગ પર્સનાલિટી સુરતની અહીંયા છે, ત્યારે વિશેષ રૂપે આજે સિટી લોજિસ્ટિક પ્લાન આપણે લોન્ચ કરવા જઈ રહ્યા છે. ફોર ઇમ્પ્રુવમેન્ટ ઓફ લોજિસ્ટિક નેટવર્ક એન્ડ નેશનલ લેવલ, the Government of India, Ministry of Commerce and Industry has approved the National Logistic Policy for vehicular traffic, material transportation cost, transportation timing and carbon emission, and so that this city logistic plan is designed. And I request Municipal Commissioner Shri Nagarajan sir and all distinguished guests who are on the dais to please launch this city logistic plan today physically. Everybody. The government of Gujarat has approved the Gujarat Integrated Logistic and Logistic Park Policy in 2021. Considering the guidelines of the same, विकसित भारत की दिशा में सूरत का ये योगदान नीति आयोग के द्वारा 4 रीजन में से सूरत को पसंद किया गया है, और सूरत का ये प्लान हमसे भी यहाँ पे एक बार फिर से तालियों के साथ हम इस शिक्षण के सहभागी बने. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. थैंक यू. सूरत जिसे कहते हैं सोने की मूरत, टेक्सटाइल की बात हो, डायमंड की बात हो, या बात हो किसी भी इंडस्ट्री, किसी भी क्षेत्र की या टूरिज्म की, सूरत हमेशा गुजरात के सबसे झड़प से विकसित होने वाले शहरों में से एक रहा है. ये मात्र एक शहर ही नहीं, लेकिन सपनाओं को साकार करने वाला एक सजीव उदाहरण है. और सूरत की इस डायनामिक प्रोग्रेसिव वे को आगे ले जाने के लिए सूरत को मिले हैं एक ऐसे ही डायनामिक एंड लीडिंग लीडर, जिनके विजन से आज सूरत एक अलग ही लेवल पे जाने जा रहा है. एंड ही इज म्युनिसिपल कमिश्नर ऑफ सूरत, Mr. Nagarajan sir. I would like to invite him for his presentation on Surat Economic Region.
Yeah, that will be good. We can all relax.
Requesting all distinguished guests on the dais to please sit in front of the stage for this presentation. Thank you.
Very warm good morning to one and all. Respected Madam Anna Roy from Niti Aayog, other eminent dignitaries who are present on the dais, industry captains who are working with a vision for this region and are present today. I welcome all of you. My fellow officers and staff from ever hardworking Surat Municipal Corporation team, and all friends in the industry and our Surat lovers. I'm very happy to be talking about this topic because Surat is not just a city now, it is an economic region. It is a growth engine for the state and also for the country. Out of the present estimated $3.5 trillion economy of India, 1.5% and odd is coming only from this region, which is very massive given the size and the impact the Surat region is carrying. And I have made a presentation just for formality, but I would like to really convey what I really feel about this situation we have here in this Surat city and its areas. In 2016 to 18, I was here as Deputy Commissioner and I was leading the Surat Smart City. We were the first city in the mission to implement all the projects and were awarded the city showing the highest momentum. In fact, our RFPs became the model RFPs for all the other cities to be followed in those times. And there are certain innate strengths that are gathering momentum in the Surat. We have our traditional strengths, and I can see a difference right now in our traditional strengths going stronger and stronger. The diamond industry getting stronger because of the lab grown diamonds. There is a dynamism, but the overall industry impact and growth is getting higher. We already had the textile industry, but we were only having certain play in the gray to the conversion of the cloth and to some extent printing. But today we are talking about even bringing from spinning to the garment, everything happening within our region. And I can see small spots of things happening here. I'm sure you are already seeing it. I have just come and pleasantly surprised that the entire value chain of textile, which is a very big multi-billion-dollar industry and a big strength of our country, is getting concentrated in this region. That shows that value is moving from all over the country to this region again. So the traditional pillars, diamond and textile, are getting bigger, stronger, and more dynamic. And new emerging spots, hotspots of growth, which is the technology, IT strength, traditional Indian strength coming to Surat. Surat was never identified as a IT city, but now we have the Digital Valley, more than 500 companies doing software services, IT-enabled services from here to the world, which has emerged just in the last few years, 4 or 5 years. Then we have the solar industry getting bigger and bigger, right from the Bharuch to Vapi, this entire area. And some industries like our homegrown Goldie Solar is leading the way. Big companies like Vari, they are having big plans for Surat. So Surat is becoming the action point for all these new offshoots of growth, which are going to have very high growth rate. And also next, we have the possibility of semiconductors, EVs, and the electronic electrical storage base category is also emerging in Surat. Semiconductor, because we all know about the massive investment that is happening in the lab grown diamond sector. We have reverse engineered the lab grown diamond machine process. Now we have Surat's own local people making these kind of machineries. So we have sort of brought in the Rajkot mindset to the semiconductor machinery in Surat. So Surat is learning faster than anyone is doing right now. And this technology, which is chemical vapor deposition, is a very core enabling technology for semiconductor wafer manufacturing. And world is moving from silicon to gallium nitride to diamond based wafers in the future, where R&D is already happening. And if we want to manufacture a diamond based wafer, then we have to use the same chemical vapor deposition technology. Instead of depositing silicon, we have to deposit carbon. So now we have better control in the kind of wafer that we want to create. Sudhir Nayak ji is here to talk about the new possibilities that are emerging. If that is going to be taken up by Surat, then nobody can stop us from being number one city, not just in Gujarat, but across the world. We'll be in top 10. We are 1/3 Surti, 1/3 Gujarat, and 1/3 rest of India. So we are a finely balanced cosmopolitan city. Everyone is respecting each other's values, culture, and it is one of the most livable cities. We are emerging as a society. And we have always seen, I was always, happy to see the kind of our city's political system also accommodating these emerging population demographics. Our leader of the ruling party is from non-Gujarati. There is a tradition. Deputy mayor. There is a fine balance that is done in the political system also to lead this entire city forward. These are actually ideal scenarios, but here in Surat, we are taking it as normal. What is normal for us is actually ideal scenario for most of the places. So these are the innate strengths that are going to gain momentum. Now, in the satellite city, Bardoli has been selected out of 5 cities, Kalol, Sanand. In that series, we have Bardoli coming up as a satellite town. And already the Urban Development Department is in the process of appointing a consultant to make this place supplementing to the Surat's growth. These are all multiple tracks emerging very fast. And we can see today that a lot of discussion will be there on the Surat economic region, where Niti Aayog, the Gujarat Rajya Institute of Transformation, all working together to put in the basic infrastructural elements that will enable this high-speed growth. We have been consistently growing above 10% for more than a decade, both in terms of population and in terms of economy. Our compounding rate is faster, and we will compound much faster. The high-speed rail project, which will be coming up within a year, may bring Bombay closer to Surat. It will be just 1 hour from Surat to Bombay. So Surat to BKC is only 1 hour. So majority of the conferences, majority of the discussions, majority of the outbound events can be easily done in this Surat region. People can come in the morning and go back in the evening. That will transform big dynamics, and it will take a lot of load off the Mumbai ecosystem and supplement it to the Surat ecosystem. To make this reality faster, the Surat Urban Development Authority has made 3 town planning schemes, and it is surrounding that Surat bullet train station, and this entire area will become a metropolis, and it is nicely situated between Bardoli and Surat. So when we are moving from Surat to Bardoli, you are having another hop spot, which is the high-speed rail station, which will be a acropolis of its own. And very soon we'll be coming up with various plots that we can develop with the all developers here and from the world. So these are various trends that I believe is going to make Surat the most happening place in terms of vibrant economy. And even by 2035, just when the Commonwealth will be finished in Ahmedabad, the decade from 2035 to 45 will be Surat's decade. And seeds are already sown now, and we'll be seeing that effect very soon. So, in among all these things, Surat will always, as a city and as a region, focus on inclusive growth and sustainable development. Today, Dr. Purnima Dore is here to stress on this aspect of how do we take everyone along? How do we manage the growth in a sustainable way? And how do we build opportunities for the newer people who are coming to Surat? For example, in our this year's budget, as soon as I joined, within 5 days, we had to prepare a budget. And I wanted to think very hard about what could be that new thing, new direction that this Surat city has to take. Because if I miss this budget, I have to wait one more year to bring anything new into the document. I focused on service economy because we have a strength of manufacturing, but the next generation, which is being grown up in Surat, we may not be sure that everyone will be employed in the manufacturing sector. So we wanted to focus on service economy. And rightly so, Government of India declared about the orange economy, where audiovisual skills, digital skills, gig economy, and creator economy will be booming. And Surat has innate strength for all these things. Surat has already very vibrant digital creators economy. We already have very good creators, communities, groups doing their work in a very effective manner. So how do we do all these things? We also want to work with the industry on creating diamond tourism. When we are talking, we already have diamond tourism. The buyers come here to talk about deals. Why not the consumers? Who are the real users of your diamond? Do they know how your diamond is produced? Can we have a curated tour of your customer to come and see where my diamond is getting produced, how it is being polished, how it is getting designed? This will create a sort of belongingness and a connect with the product for our consumers. Same way, medical tourism is emerging as a potentiality. Textile tourism, custom textiles, custom fabrics, new materials which are coming up, especially in sports apparels. In fact, sporting as an economy is also getting bigger and bigger in Surat. We have eminent sports people, eminent sports communities doing their bit. And now how do we bring them together into one single platform to make sporting as an activity for the people, sporting as a business, sporting as a strength for Surat? All my informal interaction with people, everyone wants to do a one-day sporting, event very soon. I have to apply the brakes. Wait, let me garner more people, and we do a big proper event where sporting means sport goods manufacturers, apparels, the coaches, the athletes, the enablers, the media who sell sports, everyone coming together to make sporting the real action ground and in Surat. This is a very big possibility. And rightly so, we are talking about in our Urban Challenge Fund, we are proposing important meetings conference infrastructure under the project. We'll also be creating a big mice in infrastructure near the bullet train station. We are also planning for a big stadium and also food tourism. સુરતનું જમણ કાશીનું મરણ, પણ સુરતનું મજા ફક્ત સુરતી જ કેમ લેવાનું? બધાને લેવા જોઈએ. Let us call the world to come and enjoy. Let Surat be the place where you can do business, where you can relax, where you can enjoy and have a good time. We are surely a livable city. So how do we project this aspect? What is there? We don't need to repeat. People already know. What is there but not seen? How do we project? That is why when we talk about building a world-class city, It is not just my vision. Honorable Priyam always says, think big. And we all know about the quotation, aim for the skies, you will at least reach the treetop. But I want to change it and say that if Surat aim for the skies, I am sure we will reach the stars. That is the kind of DNA this city has, and we have to convert it. So when India aims to be a $30 trillion economy by 2047, what is that bold number that we can think for Surat? Maybe we should all think in our minds now. We may need not say that, but after some time we can evolve a consensus of what could be the figure that Surat economic region wants to make in this multi-trillion dollar discussion. So we'll have Anara Madam herself talking about the vision of Government of India, ably supported by Niti Aayog, and the broader vision of building Surat's fabric with the national growth. We will be having that discussion today. And we also launched the Surat Economic Region Master Plan. And there is a big performance happening in numbers. I'm not going into the numbers. So there are two major themes, earning well and living well, which is part of the Viksit Gujarat plan. And in Surat, we have chemical and pharma. So when I talk about semiconductors, semiconductor is at the core a chemical and metallurgical process. So those who are having specialized chemical strength can easily serve the semiconductor industry. It requires some tangential movement, but it is possible. Same way, we have pharma, textile and apparel, gems and jewelry, tourism, real estate, and agriculture. Around this region, we have a lot of organic and natural farm produce coming up. We have to support these initiatives. We can build a healthy city by building a healthy agriculture supply chain. And in living well, higher education and skilling, tertiary healthcare, and sustainability and livability. So in higher education and skilling, in budget, we have declared about giving 2 lakh students in our Surat city schools from K-12, this entire from class 1 to class 12, giving them the Surti advantage by teaching them new economy skills, by integrating it into their curriculum. From class 1 to class 12, it will include all the emerging STEM robotic skills, the orange economy skills, not just as a one-time event or one-time activity, but embedded in the curriculum throughout the year and over a period of few years. That will bring massive strength to the next generation that is coming up. Also in skilling, we wish to establish R&D cum skilling centers with the support of the industry on a consortium model so that everyone can come. We create common infrastructure for training, common infrastructure for core activities, say for Jensen Jewelry, the design softwares we can provide in a common space. We already have some examples like Setu Foundation, where we can create prototypes, industry-ready prototypes in the 3D manufacturing. So tertiary healthcare, we have the Smimer Hospital, 600 bedded, and we have almost 50 bedded hospitals coming all across the city. This will create a primary, secondary, and tertiary treatment network within the entire Surat city to serve the 85 lakh population. And in sustainability and livability, we are focusing on heat action plan and also preventing urban floods. Use of AI in many of these aspects requires a lot of experimentation. So we are looking at providing a safe developmental urban sandbox for startup innovators and industry to come together, work with the city, and co-create solutions, not just for us, but for the whole of the country. And everything with sustainability, climate action, net zero in mind. So if we see, the Surat is one of the most livable and most important or critical place where we can do great business and build the future together. So it's the fastest growing city, diamond capital of the world, textile powerhouse, Hazira industrial belt. We even have defense manufacturing going on here, best governed city, and also strategic connectivity. I don't want to take further time. I think you got the point that next 10 years is going to be built in Surat, and then we will lead the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for your impressive thoughts and, of course, motivating plans for progressive Surat. For building a vibrant urban economy for Viksit Bharat, this is the seminar for the same, and we are truly honored to have Ms. Anna Roy with us, Advisor Niti Ayog. Ma'am, we are eager to hear your thoughts and insights, and I'm sure your words will inspire and enlighten all of us. Please welcome, ma'am. Everybody.
Good morning. First of all, my grateful thanks to Municipal Commissioner Surat and Deputy Municipal Commissioner for inviting me here, and the entire Surat Municipal Commissioners, the entire establishment, because I have been working with this organization and found them to be so progressive and so forthcoming. It's really heartening. I also was really very pleased to hear Mr. Nagarajan, whom I happened to meet today for the first time, and to see him take what we had planned to the next stage is in at such a short time gives a lot of hope that this will not be another project report which will just be in our shelves, but will actually see the light of the day and transform the region as we had proposed. Now my initial slides will be a little bit repetitive, like overlapping with what Mr. Nagarajan referred to, but I'll quickly go through it just to have a flow of the presentation. So the Growth Hub initiative of Niti Aayog was launched in 2023 with the aim of reimagining planning. And it was at the behest of Honorable Prime Minister, who said that while cities are engines of growth, but we need to work on the urban planning in a way that true potential is realized, and we are able to meet the Viksit Bharat targets. So the entire concept of Growth Hub initiative, the city economic region, as it is called now, rests on four key mind shifts. First of all, to be proactive. Presently, our urban planning is very reactive. So when you need some, you feel the population is rising at some areas, so you look for housing, other infrastructure, social infrastructure, and yeah, so organically these things come on. We don't plan, and at least there is no economic lens to this planning. Then as Mr. Nagarajan mentioned, you don't have to look at, can't be too focused only on economic development. Sustainability is important, and inclusivity, sustainability increasingly so in regions which are more prone to some forces of natural forces, but generally globally we are seeing these things develop. So three pillars have to be given equal importance. Then a regional aspect. If we keep planning SUDA for its administrative area and commissioner's office only for the municipal boundaries, then we do not realize the potential. So giving it a regional aspect, because today's peri-urban, today's rural are tomorrow's twin cities, tomorrow's urban areas. And if we proactively plan for these regions, then we grow in a more systematic manner. Lastly, an institutional framework. If we do not change our current institutional framework, we do not meet the aspirations of the future. One second. And this I just covered. So Surat, as was mentioned, was one of the 4 pilot cities which were taken up in phase 1. And 16 more were to be taken up subsequently to make these economic plans. I was lucky that Surat was assigned to Niti Ayog's internal team, and we worked closely with the state government and Surat Municipal Corporation, because it was the SMC which was put in the lead to bring the plan forward, and it was launched in 2024 by Honorable Chief Minister. In this year's budget, there have been several announcements which are really, really growth focused. One of them is specifically for city economic region, where Surat is named as one of the beneficiary CRs. The focus of the scheme is basically on growth, innovation, and opportunities. So, as you will see, the stress is on achieving growth, not really only on urban management, because we have several schemes focused specifically on urban management. And last year, only Urban Challenge Fund was announced, which is very ably managed by Mohua, and the guidelines have been recently released. Also, the focus was on tier 2, tier 3 cities to ensure that we have a more balanced growth and power of agglomeration, and a development which is anchored on growth drivers. So when we look at growth drivers, basically those sectors which already have endowments in the region, or where a ecosystem, if developed, can really accelerate the growth process. So a snapshot has already been given by the municipal commissioner, but when we identify the region, Surat was the nucleus, which was the driver, which had to take the other region forward. And there was a lot of debate, and on the contiguity, proximity, economic reliability. So at the end of it, uh, 5 other districts were added to Surat. So, and that really shows the potential for Surat to be the engine which will take along other regions which were not really as developed as Surat. And I don't think I have that particular slide, but what we noticed here was the wide regional difference between Surat and its adjoining districts, where Surat was far, far ahead from the adjoining districts. So this was the regional plan, was to ensure that we have a more balanced regional growth. This is a profile of Surat, and the only one point I would like to mention here is the per capita income, where Gujarat's per capita income is 1.5 that of national per capita income, and Surat is even higher, average there in Gujarat compared to Gujarat. This is the Viksit Gujarat, and I was fortunate to work with the state government on this vision document. And we did a pro rata for Surat, but the state government said, no, we have higher expectations. So it is not really a pro rata. If you see 3.5 to 4 trillion for Gujarat, it's not really pro rata, and a higher target was set for Surat of 1.3 to 1.5 trillion, keeping the potential of this region. So we actually planned for a 1.3 to 1.5 trillion, which was, the plan was pro earth, pro people, and inclusive growth approach. That was where we started from. Now, this is an important thing. Before we started the plan, it wasn't as if we were starting in a vacuum. Already, several projects were on being implemented. Several projects were being mapped. And in the left, what is there is the mega projects which were already either already on the ground, or being implemented, or at a very advanced planning stage. And on the right, which I really compliment the state government, what they did was to identify the land masses. The pink corridor which you see is between the high speed railway and the expressway, Delhi Mumbai expressway. So that entire corridor was identified for very, very aggressive development. because, as was mentioned by Mr. Nagarajan, the proximity to a mega city like Mumbai, the living cost of living in a city like Mumbai, and if we develop Surat economic region very effectively, very proactively, with clear vision, it could present an alternative to Mumbai with more affordable living, better living condition, more livable cities. So that pink region, the corridor, emerged as one of the key areas. The green which you see is Dang, which is largely forest covered. And there it was the ecotourism that we proposed. And then, of course, we have the chemical zone and other regions. So these were the growth drivers. Earning well and living well was the message, was the approach in the Viksit Gujarat. So we, while preparing the Surat plan, we really benefited from the Viksit Gujarat plan, and we took up a lot of the visions and other things from there. And earning well and living well also we took up from there. And chemical and pharma was the area where manufacturing was to be increased, but tertiary was to be promoted in apparel and jewelry because of pressures on the region. And relocating existing MSMEs within the city to the HSR region were some of the, so de-densification of the region and shifting to tertiary. Then tourism, of course, real estate, agriculture, it was mentioned. Agriculture more on natural farming, and the enablers. So these were all mentioned. On the right were the very indicative areas, land requirement and estimated investment which were required. Around 50 unique projects were identified for these 9 growth drivers, and also several policy unlocks both at the state level and at the central level were also identified in order to realize this, implement these projects. So, briefly, in a nutshell, out of the 56 projects, for 31 projects, we actually, in consultation with the district administrations of all the 6 districts and the state government, we were able to identify the location also, and sectorally we identified these projects. Many of them are intersectoral. When we talk about education hub in the HSR region, it is a lot of things have to go in. It's not just bringing in some universities, but to create a complete ecosystem which makes Surat an aspirational city. And looking at because if the faculty has to come, then the faculty must have the support of for their family and others, entertainment zones. One thing which we heard from the manufacturing stakeholder consultation, that Surat, despite very high incomes, is not an aspirational city. They said that our top management do not want to stay here. They would much rather stay in Mumbai and commute. So that is one of the things we wanted to change, and many of the recommendations were aimed at making Surat an aspirational cities where people would from all over the country would like to come and work and stay. So these are the projects under various heads, including sustainability. And on the right are the 4 development zones. Manufacturing was spoken about. We thought that it could really be positioned as a center of, we don't have a very centralized system like, you have Guangzhou in China, which really centralizes a lot of products in so that from traders and manufacturers from all over the world come and buy products from there. We did not have that. We were told by stakeholders that if they need to look and scout for, say, even textiles or jewelry, they have to really go shop to shop. There were no centralized places where they could buy, and the scale was also a problem. So we proposed a B2B like Gonzao model in HSR, and Dream City, where already steps had been taken through the diamond boots. We presented a whole Dream City zone which the projects, if implemented in right earnest, can really position Surat as the fashion capital of the world. Then, of course, the EduCity and the townships in the HSR. These were some of the policies which we proposed. Now, the thing which I would like to focus on is implementation going forward. As I already mentioned, the CR scheme has been launched by central government. The state government has also included in their budget, various schemes to implement the Surat economic regions projects. How do we go forward? The CR scheme identifies a few bottlenecks which need to be addressed if we have to implement these economic plans in the right earnest. First is the institutional coordination. Now, within Surat, you have a municipality, you have an authority, then there are several other entities. Also, financial capability. Poor project preparation and bankability, and fragmented regional planning frameworks, as well as limited convergence of schemes. Uh, Many schemes have been announced by the central government on urban development, and for very for implementation of those schemes also, it is necessary that we address these five issues. So we are now focusing on convergence and institutional development in a manner that we effectively leverage all of these very ambitious schemes, and these schemes translate into a real moving the needle kind of a thing, and we are able to cover great ground, and convergence of GOI schemes becomes important, whether it is by MOHUA, whether it is by industries ministries, the transportation or chemicals or education hubs. Several in this budget itself, for tourism, around 6 announcements have been made. So how do we leverage those announcements and ensure that those under those schemes we are able to fund some of our projects which are already part of SCR? And the projects of the SCR scheme are not wishful thinking. There were several round of consultations held, and Swati still is here. Swati was at that time also. They enabled these stakeholder consultations, and when I speak of locations, the nature of projects, it was discussed at length. We had day long meetings with stakeholders. It was discussed at length. So this is not a wishful thing. I think a lot of things have been addressed. What we now need to do is look at preparation of feasibility reports, preparation of DPRs, identification of project structuring, identification who will do it, etc. So that stage, I think, has come. We have spoken about the institutional mechanism. We would need overarching institutional mechanism, say for projects which go beyond SUDA's limit, SMC's limit, to other districts, and it may cover even rural areas, panchayat areas. So overarching mechanism would be required. So basically, we have identified, tried to segregate, and hopefully going forward, we'll be actively working with the municipal corporation and its senior officers in taking this through a logical route. We have divided the projects by sectors. And if you see, urban development forms the chunk. And now with the guidelines for Urban Challenge Fund already having been released recently, I think this is the right time to start structuring these projects in the right earnest. Also by investment categorization, whether it should be sponsored under a government schemes or whether various government schemes and convergence, etc. And also whether it is a single standalone project, a cluster, a corridor, or a regional project. We have categorized it under that, and also under different departments. Now private investment will come throughout. So while doing project structuring at that stage, we'll have to identify how the private investment will become a part of the funding. Some rationale we have given, I will not go through it. and basically why something through the spatial lens, why we call it a corridor or why we call it a regional project has a basis. It's not as if we just took the 56 and divided it. It has a lot of basis. That is what we are trying to convey through this right hand side coordinate. Now the plan is for 2047, so obviously all the projects cannot come immediately. We need to prioritize what in the next 1 year, what in the next 2 years, what in the next 3 years, and then over 5 years. So that prioritization has to be done. We have given some key consideration for prioritization. On funding, again, public funding, VGF is there for PPPs, and CR scheme, which we are still awaiting the notification of the guidelines. Based on discussion so far, the CR scheme, which has allocated 5,000 crore per CR, and Surat will get 5,000 crore, will really fund critical, gap elements. Not if there are projects which can be funded under existing schemes, it will avoid funding those, and critical gap and supporting the region, helping them capacity building, developing project reports, etc. Private, obviously, there are several methods. So, at the time of project structuring, I think we will have to focus a lot on these aspects. Monitoring would be the key. We have to put robust mechanisms in place to help monitor the progress with METI, that is the NEGD. NITI has already developed a dashboard which will help monitor implementation of the projects. And once we start discussing with the state government, we will connect them to NEGD. There's NEGD's role to work with states. So while a template has been developed, it can be customized for the needs of the different CRs, and that will help monitor the schemes. Also, we would require some KPIs, outcome oriented KPIs and not input based, to help to ensure that the outcomes are reached, and what we had planned is actually realized. And we would need some kind of a interministerial, interinstitutional kind of a mechanism which could meet regularly and oversee the various implementation of the various projects. Now, the way forward, I will just sum in this slide. Basically, for projectization has been done. Those projects came with a disclaimer that these projects are not based on detailed feasibility study. So the first step would be feasibility study, making the packages, project packages. So say 56 could translate into 150 sub packages, and prioritization of the projects, doing the project structuring with the view of identifying funding and implementation, linking them to reforms, and putting a robust monitoring mechanism in place. If we can crack this, these things in a very proactive manner, I think our target of 1.3 to 1.5 trillion, which we had put in the plan for Surat, I think we will surpass it, because the region has immense potential. With that, I end the presentation. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your inspiring and encouraging words. Thank you. Now, with great respect and appreciation, I invite Mr. Gopal Prasad, IRS, Economic Advisor, Mohua, Government of India, for Financial Inclusive Economic Development. Sir, please.
So this is the way to proceed with the slide? Yes. Yes. Yeah, yeah. That's okay. That's okay. So it's not- Oh, no, it's- नमस्कार सभी को। Good morning, Anna Roy ma'am, Purnima ji, Surya Tapa ji, Swati, and all the participants over here. I'm told that you are all from different backgrounds. Some of you are industrialists, some of you are entrepreneurs, some of you are civil servants, some of you are academicians. It's a very diverse group, and it's very, very good to be here. It's an honor for me to be here on this particular dais. सबसे बड़ी बात यह है कि जो सूरत इकोनॉमिक रीजन के बारे में जो बोला गया, अन्ना रॉय मैम का प्रेजेंटेशन बहुत ही कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव, बहुत ही इलेबोरेटिव और बहुत ही बढ़िया रहा. काफ़ी लोगों को इस बात समझ में आ गया कि एक्चुअल में सूरत इकोनॉमिक रीजन क्या है, इस पे गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया का क्या स्टैंड है, किस तरह से गवर्नमेंट इसको फैसिलिटेट कर रही है, और जो पोटेंशियल है अभी जो और अनलॉक करने का, वो यहाँ के कैसे हम लोग इसको अनलॉक करने का क्या स्ट्रैटेजी है. मैम ने बहुत ही बढ़िया से इलेबोरेटिवली उसको बताया है एक एक चीज़ों को. सो मुझे नहीं लगता कि मेरे प्रेजेंटेशन में कुछ चीज़ें ऐसी हैं जो कि उसको रिपीट करने की ज़रूरत नहीं होगी. आई विल स्किप दैट. और म्युनिसिपल कमिश्नर नागराजन जी ने जो बातें बताई उसके हिसाब से ये लगा कि मतलब एज ए प्रैक्टिशनर, एज ए कमिश्नर, he has now a challenge to further sustain the city at the next level, especially with respect to certain aspirational targets, how to achieve that. So that is what he is basically aspiring to. Now with this, I just want to start with the presentation with in a structured manner, and then I am thinking of how to have this in a dialogue form instead of a monologue from my side one way. It's better that जो आप सब लोग आए हैं, मे बी आप अपने सुझाव भी देंगे, आप अपने क्वेश्चंस पूछेंगे, आप कुछ बातें बताएंगे, शायद उससे जो है और बेहतर कुछ समझ में आएगा या कुछ उसमें हम लोग कुछ बात कर सकेंगे. थैंक यू. Urbanization, Surat economic region, objectives and role of the city government, policy dispensation and schemes, key challenges, way forward. ये एक तरीका है structured presentation को बनाने का. हमने भी कुछ थोड़ा एफर्ट किया उसमें. डेमोग्राफी को देखते हैं. सबको पता है कि हम किस तरह से आगे, जो अर्बन ट्रैजेक्टरी इन इंडिया है उसमें हम किस तरह से आगे जा रहे हैं. 377 मिलियन से हम 594 मिलियन 2036 तक पहुंचेंगे और 877 मिलियन करीब हमारा पॉपुलेशन हो जाएगा. लगभग करीब 50% से ऊपर अर्बनाइजेशन हो जाएगा. 80% जो कंट्रीब्यूशन है जीडीपी में वो सिटी से आता है, सिटी रीजन से आता है. लैंड जो है वो काफ़ी कम है, 3 से 5% के बीच है और लगभग 60% ऑफ जीडीपी यहाँ से आता है. अर्बन सिनेरियो इन इंडिया में अगर हम ये देखें स्लाइड्स को तो वही बात है जो काफ़ी और भी जगह पे बताया गया है, लेकिन इसमें ये बताया गया है कि किस जो हब्स हैं, कौन से ये रीजन्स हैं पूरे देश में. अगर मान लीजिए 5000 के लगभग जो आपके अर्बन लोकल बॉडीज़ हैं, तो इसमें जो है इसके अलग अलग, अगर इसको हम लोग डिसेक्ट करें तो पता चलता है 5 से 50 लाख के बीच के पॉपुलेशन वाले में लगभग करीब 49.42%, दैट मीन्स 123 शहर आते हैं जो टियर 1 सिटीज़ में हैं. टियर 2 सिटीज़ में आप 50,000 से 1 लाख के बीच में लगभग करीब जो है 4.75 करोड़ का पॉपुलेशन है. 697 शहर इसमें आते हैं. तो आप इसको देखेंगे टियर 1 टियर 2 मिला के तो लगभग जो है करीब आपको 1400 सिटीज़ इसमें आ जाते हैं. उसके बाद इसमें जो वो ब्लू डॉट्स हैं वो ये दिखाता है कि इसमें जो है दीज आर द हॉट स्पॉट्स, दीज आर द ग्रोथ हब्स, जहाँ की देयर इज़ अ ट्रिमेंडस पोटेंशियल कि अगर हम इस पे फर्दर और कैसे इस रीजन को डेवलप करते हैं. एक नाइट लाइट डेटा का इस्तेमाल किया गया. इसमें थोड़ा इसमें ये बताया गया कि अगर प्लानिंग लेड डेवलपमेंट जिस तरह से अहमदाबाद के एग्लोमरेशन में हुआ है उसके कंपैरिजन में अगर हम देखा जाए दिल्ली एनसीआर को तो वो कैसा लगता है. तो 1991 से लेकर 2021 के बीच में अलग अलग इसमें नाइट लाइट डेटा का इस्तेमाल किया गया है. उससे पता चलता है कि पॉपुलेशन अगर आप देखें तो उसमें 29 लाख करीब जो है अहमदाबाद अर्बन एग्लोमरेशन में था 1991 में, जो लगभग जो है 74.6 लाख करीब 2021 में आ गया. इसी तरह से अगर आप दिल्ली एनसीआर को देखेंगे तो सेम आपको उसमें नजर आएगा कि 94.2 लाख 1991 में था, वो कहाँ से अभी 2021 में 1.97 करोड़ होके बढ़ गया। लगभग दोनों जगह बहुत समानताएं हैं कि किस तरह से डेवलपमेंट हुआ, किस तरह से सिटी एक्सपैंड हुआ, किस तरह से इसमें पुश हुआ। लेकिन कुछ चीज़ों पे लगता है कि हाँ, अगर आप देखिए तो प्लानिंग का बहुत बड़ा रोल रहा है अहमदाबाद के अर्बन एग्लोमरेशन में, खास करके इकोनॉमिक प्लानिंग, सिटी प्लानिंग, रीजनल प्लानिंग जो अब हो रहा है। दिल्ली एनसीआर में भी ऐसे ही है, लेकिन फिर भी वहाँ पे नेटवर्क इफेक्ट बहुत ज़्यादा रहा। हर तरह के एडवांटेजेस शुरुआत से ही उसको मिले, in terms of all kinds of forward linkages, backward linkages, all kinds of different, so उस ट्रांसपोर्ट, तो वो बहुत बड़ा फैक्टर होता है। तो उसको कहते हैं नेटवर्क इफेक्ट, कि किस तरह से इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर लेड डेवलपमेंट हुआ। मास्टर प्लान और प्लानिंग के सिनेरियो को अगर हम गौर से थोड़ा देखें तो पता चलता है कि लगभग 7,933, अगर इसको देखा जाए, स्टैट्यूटरी टाउन्स जो कि 4,041 है और सेंसस टाउन 3,892 है, दोनों को मिलाने के जो अर्बन सेटलमेंट्स होता है उसमें करीब 30% ऐसे हैं जहां की मात्र मास्टर प्लान्स हैं, यानी कि 70% ऐसे जगह हैं, सिटीज हैं जहां की मास्टर प्लान ही नहीं है। तो बहुत ही बेसिक और बुनियादी चीज है कि अगर मास्टर प्लान नहीं है आपके पास में, अगर आपने प्लानिंग नहीं किया है, सिटी प्लान नहीं बनाया है, इकोनॉमिक प्लानिंग नहीं किया है, तो अभी तो स्पेशल प्लानिंग थोड़ा दूर है, तो आप कैसे डेवलप करेंगे। मैं इस रीजन की नहीं बात कर रहा हूँ, एसीआर सूरत बहुत बढ़िया, बहुत सब चीज़ है, लेकिन मैं ओवरऑल इंडिया के बारे में बता रहा हूँ कि ये है। तो हमें बहुत ज़रूरी है कि सिटीज़ के पास मास्टर प्लान हो, मास्टर प्लान को इम्प्लीमेंट करने का रोल हो, मास्टर प्लान फ्रिक्वेंटली उसको विजिट किया जाए, ताकि आप उसको करेंट जो ग्रोथ हो रहा है, जो डेवलपमेंट हो रहा है, जो चेंजेस हो रहा है, उसके साथ आप उसको अलाइन कर सकें। एक नीचे इसमें ये भी बताया गया है अर्बन प्लानर्स की कितनी कमी है। अगर गौर से देखिए तो पता चलता है कि लगभग यहाँ पे करीब 4.37 लाख जनता, यानी कि पीपल पर प्लानर के अंदर आता है। लंदन में करीब 38 प्लानर ही हैं करीब 1 लाख पॉपुलेशन के लिए। तो काफी डिफरेंस है यहाँ पे। ये इस बात को बताता है कि अर्बन प्लानर्स की कमी हमारे यहाँ है और इसको शायद और ज़्यादा बेहतर करने की ज़रूरत है, बिकॉज उसके बिना ये जो विकसित भारत की हम कल्पना कर रहे हैं, जो विकसित गुजरात की कल्पना कर रहे हैं, उसको हमको पूरा करने में ये दिक्कतें आएंगी, क्योंकि अगर हमारे पास उस तरह के ह्यूमन रिसोर्स नहीं होंगे जो चाहिए हमारे अर्बन लोकल बॉडीज़ में, तो प्रोबेबली हम आगे नहीं बढ़ सकते। कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग और बाकी चीज़ों की तो बात बाद में आती है। वैकेंसीज के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से इसमें एक और चीज हमने देखा था, जो अर्बन there is a report by the Comptroller and Auditor General of India with respect to the performance audit of, and that actually reflects that on and about there is about 40% seats are only filled up. That means 40% posts are already filled up in the local bodies, but 60% is vacant. So with this kind of a vacancy, how are we going to actually, help the development of the human resources required for these ULBs? So एक बहुत बड़ा चीज है कि 60% vacant है across all ULBs in India. There is a disconnect also which emerge between the planning framework and the urbanization. Somewhat I'm trying to just say that there are current functions of these plannings on the left hand side, and what are the required functions on the right hand side. Like for example, if you see that what the current functions of the planning is to what? To cater to the existing status quo. Normally all the urban local bodies, they keep trying to do what actually they are meant to do. Now the required function is that, okay, how provide the areas for urbanization? How are you going to actually see, okay, how well you are going to connect? Very urban areas are there. Tomorrow they are going to merge with the municipal boundary of your municipality. How are you going to actually take them? What are the preparatory work you have been doing? Master plans are largely land use plans, but then required function is you have to also have the idea of how to preserve the natural areas, how to have that blue-green infra. Certain carrying capacities which are not being accounted, but then you need to actually plan for high density based on the carrying capacity, like for example, HSR and other things in the Surat economic region. Largely focus on the statutory boundaries, but then you should also address the contiguous urban forms. Like that, so there are some of the differences which we basically thought of, that this needs to be taken care of when we are actually thinking about going with the times, adapting to the changes, and still thinking about how to meet the challenges in the future. This is already there in the literature. 73rd, 74th constitutional amendments, we all know what are the key planning mandates, what is district planning committee, what is metropolitan planning committee. So try to let's see it that, okay, since 1992, when the 74th amendment has happened, how much have we actually progressed in terms of the delegation of powers, in terms of the decentralization of powers? So when you actually see and when you understand, you find it that on an average about hardly 4 to 5 functions have been devolved to the municipalities or to the urban local bodies. That's all. On paper, it may look like that maybe there are 18 functions under the 12th schedule of the Constitution, but not all the 18 functions are actually being done by the local bodies. So there is a mismatch in terms of the devolution of functions, devolutions of the functionaries and the funds. So that actually puts a lot of problem with respect to the urban local bodies. Not only the big urban corporations, especially 243, 246 big municipal corporations are there in India. They are all doing well despite all the constraints. Pimpri Chinchwad, Greater Hyderabad Municipal Corporation, Pune Municipal Corporation, Mumbai, Surat, Ahmedabad. So in India, we name it, and they are doing it much better as compared to many other municipalities or the corporations. Why is it so? Because of the certain differences in terms of the nature of their work, the approach to the work, and the way how they are actually generating their own revenues, instead of typically depending upon the grants or the central fiscal transfers and other things. So these are some of the things which needs to be made robust. There is a meaning behind the district planning committee, there's a meaning behind the metropolitan planning committee, and these things are required to be in place. That helps in terms of a lot of deliberations and designing your local area needs and how to meet those aspirational requirements. Surat economic region, I'm just trying to put it on the left-hand side. These are the key growth statistics, and for the Gujarat on the left-hand side and the Surat economic region on the right-hand side. Already everybody has, I mean, especially ma'am has already elaborated this much, so I don't have to actually go into this. So I'm just skipping these slides. These are the key drivers. These are the developing new growth avenues, and how to have this enabling ecosystem of lifestyle and learning. These are the enablers. So ma'am has already elaborated that. Objectives and role of city governments, basically to propel cities, economic region towards sustainable and equitable development. And the ethos are living well, earning well. That's very good ethos. That means ease of living, ease of doing business, as the mantra is. Now, how to get that implemented is the challenge. Surat is actually the one which is actually showing how to get it done. I'm really, really happy to see the report and also to understand that how well the city has actually emerged, how well it is actually contributing to the GSDP of the Gujarat, and not only that, for India as a whole. Why so? Because everything is being put together in a kind of an ecosystem which is actually required, and the city government is doing that. That's great. There are policy dispensation and schemes. So ma'am has also elaborated about it, and it is mentioned very well that yes, in the budget announcement, there is a city economic region concept. How it is to be actually done, it is being done. I think Ministry of Finance, Department of Economic Affairs has been entrusted with the task of operationalizing it. There are 7 city economic regions suggested. Surat is one of them. High-speed rail corridors, that is also in the budget announcement of 26-27. So other than Mumbai, Pune, Hyderabad and all that, you also can see that These all 7 regions are basically the ones which is going to pull the economy all around with a lot of forward linkages. Municipal bond is the one which is also there in the municipal in the budget, and especially this is one of the very, very important area in terms of getting a municipality or urban local bodies to become self-sufficient in terms of raising resources. That's a very good area to go with it. There are other things also mentioned with that. Already we under our Amrut scheme, we have this municipal bond provisions, and the cities are getting benefit. About 5,000 crore worth of bonds have been issued. But if you look at the total size of the bond market in India, this is nothing, 5,000 crore. So there is a tremendous potential to actually tap more into that. There are policy dispensation with respect to now Urban Challenge Fund, which is one of the most recent one. And MoHUA has recently come out with the guidelines how to operationalize this particular fund. If you look at the broader aspect of this fund, of course, there is a tremendous amount of scope, or tremendous scope rather, with respect to the PPP, which is the word we always hear, public-private partnership. So 25% government of India, 25% state government, 50% in any case has to come from the market, right? So tremendous scope is there to do projects under the PPP. 3 major verticals under this are creative redevelopment of cities, cities as growth hubs, and water and sanitation. And the structure of central assistance for the Urban Challenge Fund has been mentioned as 90,000 crore, especially for the projects, 5,000 crore for project preparation and capacity building, and 5,000 crore for credit repayment guarantee sub-scheme. Challenges, what I understood is, we talk about a lot of things that, okay, my city is of this value, or my city is generating this much of economic value. Say in the parlance of national income, I can say that if national income is, or the GDP is taken as a proxy for the national income, then GSTP is taken as the proxy of the state's income. What about the city income? How do we know actually how much actually the city is generating its own income? So we talk about, and we try to estimate and give a lot of different estimations saying that my city is of this value, my city is of that value. But precisely from the economics point of view, we do not have any such accurate measurement method to estimate what is the value of the city, what is the income of the city. So for that matter, this is a challenge, and then this is required that, okay, to have a kind of a measurement, a robust measurement, and for that matter, Niti Aayog under the chairmanship of, not just getting the name. So member Niti Aayog, he's chairing, and basically he's trying to devise the methodology for measuring the city economic product, or the city GDP, you can say in a very normal way. So once that gets done, so probably almost all the cities, if that can be enumerated, and if that can be, the statistics can be generated, that okay, every city in India can come to know that, okay, how much GDP it is actually coming out with. The other challenges are, of course, the skilled and the qualified manpower. That is always there, and we need to understand that the private sector is not actually going to absorb the people unless the people are of that kind of having the skill or the requisite capacity. So that is also a challenge. And then city government also often lack a lot of functional and financial autonomy, as I have just hinted out. So that is also required that, okay, the cities have to be empowered in the true sense of fiscal federalism, in the true sense of decentralized planning. The cities have to be empowered, and they have to be given freedom to take care of their own local needs and the requirement, and also to function with a complete autonomy. However, in India, due to so many political constraints and the political economic reasons, sometimes it is not actually happening. Way forward, which I can think of, is a kind of a thing that, okay, maybe perhaps we need a special planning strategy. And this is what is not only required for here as a Surat or in Gujarat in particular, but for a country as a whole. I am talking about that in case if we need to see that north, south, east, west, and those pockets of the growth hubs, if they have to be actually developed or catapulted to kind of a economic regions, it is important to have a special planning strategy so that the planning, infrastructure, and investment can be integrated. Central and the state investment can be aligned with, and the institutional and human resource capacity can be enabled. This also helps to have preservation on the natural resources, which are biggest asset of any country or an economy. With this, I just want to end here, not telling much about how much is the resource gap, how much is going to be the resource requirement and all that. These are all the scope. I mean, there is a plenty of scope of doing a lot of estimation and one can get that. But now I just want to open the floor in terms of maybe trying to understand your perspective in case if we get to know, because I'm not knowing exactly if there is a question and answer session towards the end. I am not aware of that. But even if it is now, in case if you could also throw up some of the ideas, some of the other things, most welcome. Is that so? Anyone? Yes, please.
Thank you, sir. Excellent presentation. I just interested to know that anything we plan, unless when it is measured on monthly basis, person is identified with responsibilities and timeline. So I think what is the mechanism you have to come up with to find out that every month what is happening to all these problems? Is there any mechanism? And who is responsible for each and every?
A very good question. The question is easy to ask, but the answer is difficult to give. Why so? Because look at the system we have. In the government of India, there are so many ministries and departments. Each one is mandated to do their task. Every other ministry and department has their own database, their dashboards, and the portal, and so on and so forth. So there is no no dearth of data. There are plenty of data all around. The question is that how much we are using the data and whether we have the capability to actually use the data the way we actually want. With the advent of artificial intelligence and data mining and data science, so much things have already come and technology is actually helping now. But as what you are asking is a good thing, that whether we have at one particular place to actually see and try to monitor. I don't think we have. Everyone has their different sets of data portal and other things. But yes, integration is required. And perhaps I think with the role of the technology, it can happen also one day, that you can have that at a button of, or maybe on your mobile itself, so many things you can see at in one place. So that's what I can understand at this point of time. But probably Ministry of Statistics program implementation, and then other Niti Aayog and the other stakeholder ministry in government, they may have some device. I mean, they may have some mechanism, but I'm not completely aware of that. Thank you.
I'm from healthcare industry, so I don't know how much it is relevant, but as if you are talking about the PPP model, about the contribution from private, state, and the central government. So is there any economical or anything, any guidelines available for the PPP models to be established in the urban areas?
Yeah, I'm aware of that under Department of Economic Affairs, they have a PPP cell, completely dedicated public-private partnership division. They have already put it on their website, all the guidelines. Other than that, also under the Urban Challenge Fund, as we have just operationalized the guidelines, if you can read that, that also gives you a plenty of information as to how actually we are expecting the private sector to come in and plug in, and there is a plenty of scope for private sector to come in, and especially with respect to the schemes and the programs under MOHUA. If you look at certain line of work, say for example, water, sanitation, sewage, urban transport. So look at this. Most of these are basically the kind of a natural monopolies. No, private sector earlier wanted to actually come and invest because they used to think of that, okay, how are we going to actually generate the returns? But look at now, the time is changing. We are seeking private sector participation to come in these areas, put their money, and see that how it can be self-sustainable for you to actually not only reap your returns but also you can sustain it. Now there are so many examples. Under the Amrut scheme, private sectors are coming. Under the Swachh Bharat mission, private sectors are coming. How? Because now it is good for them. It is, despite being a natural monopolies, now they know, okay, this is the way government wants us to come. So that there are tremendous scope to do that and leverage the fund, which is actually with the private sector to come forward, because the government also knows exactly that not possible every time that the government is going to pump in so much of money. Thank you. Yes, please.
I'm working in a large company in and around Surat. I'm heading that, and actually we want to grow in this region. And there is a lot of market because we are exporting our glass. But there is a challenge around getting people in this region, and this is a very big challenge. And we are trying to do many things. But now we are at that level where the management is thinking of relocating also the expansion. So anything, any guidance as well, because I think you are looking at like this is the biggest challenge that we are facing. I don't know how many colleagues are facing, but this is the challenge in the manpower intensity.
Yeah, that you are right. This is a common challenge being faced across India in different different cities also, and but yes, uh, the labor, which is the most mobile, keeps migrating from one part to the another. The way the funds flow, in terms of seeing that where the returns are higher, so the funds, when they switch over, the labor is also now in a position to switch over, and where they get the good returns, good amenities, good facilities, they try to go there. uh, Manpower, of course, including each and everything, is a critical requirement, and how to retain those manpower with a particular organization is for the organization, how they are actually devising the ways and means, and in terms of how they are actually promoting the work culture. So that all depends on that. But yes, in the times to come also, the what I can see is that the deficit on the part of the skilled manpower is going to increase until and unless if we actually start thinking from that point of view that, okay, how well we can help the capacity building to take place, and the sooner it takes place the better it is, which at this point of time we have a lot of this capacity building issues, especially with respect to the municipalities. Thank you. Yes.
लेकिन जैसे सर ने कहा कि काफी लोग सूरत बाइक एमएसएमई जैसा हमारा कोई भी बड़ा कॉर्पोरेट हाउस ना आना नहीं चाहता, ज्यादातर होते हैं या एंड क्योंकि यहाँ पे जो बेसिक एम्यूनिटीज है वो जैसे जो यहाँ का सपना देखता है स्पेशल इकोनॉमिक में काफी मीटिंग मैडम के साथ कभी भी एक सर्टन स्टेज के बाद यहाँ पे ग्रो थोड़ा मुश्किल, क्योंकि यहाँ पे अगर हमें ग्रो करना है तो उनकी फैसिलिटी लाइक एयरपोर्ट बनाना चाहिए। अच्छा है, लेकिन कनेक्टिविटी नहीं है। हमारे से अच्छी कनेक्टिविटी इंदौर से है, हमारे से अच्छी कनेक्टिविटी जयपुर से है, हमारे से अच्छी कनेक्टिविटी दूसरे शहरों से। सूरत में इंटरनेशनल लाइक सिंगापुर काफी कनेक्टिविटी, चाइना, हांगकॉन्ग, क्योंकि सूरत की डायमंड इंडस्ट्री जुड़ी हुई है, लेकिन कोई कनेक्टिविटी नहीं। हमारी थाईलैंड जैसे एक फ्लाइट थी वो भी बंद हो गई। दुबई की हमारी अनसर्टेनिटी है शहर के, क्योंकि सूरत एक पूरे हिंदुस्तान को जुड़े हुए है टेक्सटाइल एंड डायमंड, लेकिन पूरे हिंदुस्तान से हमारी कनेक्टिविटी नहीं है। तो बेसिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के ऊपर में हम फोकस नहीं करें। यहाँ पे कॉलेजेज नहीं है, अच्छी यूनिवर्सिटीज नहीं है, हम कहाँ से अच्छी नहीं पाओगे। कोई अच्छा यहाँ पे आना नहीं चाहता क्योंकि अच्छे होटल्स यहाँ पे अवेलेबल नहीं है, अच्छी इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर डेवलपमेंट नहीं है, हॉस्पिटल नहीं है। सब किसी को थोड़ी सी भी क्रिटिकल बीमारी हो जाती है तो बॉम्बे, हैदराबाद उधर छोड़ना पड़ता है। तो यहाँ कौन आए जब तक कि अच्छी मैन पावर नहीं होगी, अच्छे प्रोफेशनल्स नहीं होंगे, तो हम हमारे लिए ग्रो करना बड़ा मुश्किल है। हम आप बिलीव नहीं करेंगे, कोई अच्छा अगर हमें कोई डायरेक्टर चाहिए, कोई अच्छा फाइनेंशियल कंसल्टेंट चाहिए तो हमें बॉम्बे जाना पड़ता है। हमें ये एडवाइस किया जाता है कि अगर आपको ग्रो करना है तो आप अहमदाबाद या बॉम्बे या दिल्ली में आप अपना इस्टेब्लिशमेंट। तो मेरा ये मानना है सर, आज सभी लोग यहाँ उपस्थित हैं, हमें सूरत को, इस रीजन को अगर रियल में डेवलपमेंट करना है। आप देखिए कि जितनी भी अच्छी कंपनी है या लिमिटेड कंपनीज है, चाहे वो केमिकल्स में है, फार्मा में है या टेक्सटाइल्स में है या डायमंड के भी ज़्यादातर सब होंगे। तो हमें ऐसा एटमोसफियर क्रिएट करना चाहिए, ऐसी मैन पावर हमें यहाँ पे हमारे पास में हो, क्योंकि यहाँ जब तक लोकल मैन पावर डेवलप नहीं होगी उसके लिए यहाँ पे अच्छी फैसिलिटीज प्रोवाइड करनी है। बाहर से लोगों को लेके आना है तो वैसा एटमॉस्फेयर हमें प्रोवाइड करना है कि हम यहाँ ग्रोथ करें। हमारे सपने ऊंचे हैं, संभावनाएं उससे भी ज़्यादा सूरत में है। सूरत में एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप स्किल बहुत है, गवर्नमेंट सपोर्ट है, लेकिन बेसिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर हमें डेवलप करने की बहुत सख्त जरूरत है। थैंक यू।
Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving your observation. Very informative, and I appreciate जो आपने बातें कुछ कही हैं, एंड मुझे लगता है कि आपसे वाकिफ भी होंगे आपके साथी जो भी हैं यहाँ पे। Honorable Prime Minister always speaks about, he says that vocals for locals. और कुछ बातें ऐसी होती है कि एक जिसको आप कह रहे हैं कि आप कंपेयर कर रहे हैं, अगर मुंबई से, अहमदाबाद से कर रहे हैं, अभी आप सूरत को कंपेयर कर रहे हैं, नहीं, एक तरह से आप बता रहे हैं कि मतलब बिकॉज हाउ दे आर एक्चुअली वहाँ पे जाना पड़ता है, या वहाँ ज़्यादा बिजनेसेस हैं एज कम्पेयर टू व्हाट सूरत में होना चाहिए था। सूरत में भी होगा, बिकॉज अगर आपके इस तरह के जज्बे हैं, इस तरह का टीम स्पिरिट है, जिस तरीके से आपने पिछले 20 सालों में सूरत को ग्रो कराया है, जो जहाँ पे आज सूरत जिस लेवल पे है, इससे भी और आगे जाने की संभावनाएं, अपार संभावनाएं हैं। और ऐसा नहीं है कि आने वाले समय में नहीं होगा। नेटवर्क के जो इश्यूज हैं, ट्रांसपोर्ट नेटवर्क के इश्यूज हैं, वो भी रिजॉल्व होंगे, नंबर ऑफ फ्लाइट्स ज़्यादा आएंगे, हॉस्पिटल्स कम, आप जिसको लग रहा है हॉस्पिटल्स भी आने वाले टाइम पे और बनेंगे और होंगे, क्योंकि आप देखिए हर एक सिटी अपने एक स्पीड से, अपने एक पेस से इंडिया में ग्रो करती है। गवर्नमेंट इज ओनली अ फैसिलिटेटर। गवर्नमेंट ट्राई टू फैसिलिटेट एज मच एज इट कुड, be it a local government or the state government or the central government. But ultimately, it is the people of the city which actually makes the city livable or city to become a developed city. It is the people who do it. And I am very aware of this, that every one single Gujarati is such a great businessman. It's amazing spirit, amazing. This I have not seen anywhere, not only in India, but even abroad also. The way a folk from Gujarat thinks about a particular thing, the business acumen they may have, the way they analyze, and the way they generate money. So money begets money. And what you have all been doing is that, exactly that. So you are helping your city as well as your state to grow further and further. Aane wale time pe these things will actually get resolved, definitely. But of course, it takes a time. There are cities like Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata. They have taken an advantage right from the beginning itself. They have got that big push. That is why most of the things were concentrated on these 4 metropolitan cities. Later on, these Hyderabad, Pune, and other cities, they came. Then 7, 8 more cities came. But aane wale time pe, then another more 10 more cities may become. And these metropolitan cities today, they would become like some kind of a megapolis city or something like that. So this kind of lag effect is always there in all kinds of regional planning and the development. Thank you so much. Jain.
Thank you, sir. We extend our sincere gratitude for your very valuable presentation and your time. अब आगे बात करते हैं हम वाइब्रेंट गुजरात रीजनल कॉन्फ्रेंस साउथ एंड सेंट्रल गुजरात समिट 2026 में, और ये एक बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग एंड बड़ी होपफुल एक ये शब्द मुझे यहाँ पे लग रहे हैं, दैट इज वॉल्केन ऑफ अपॉर्चुनिटीज। और इसमें बात करेंगे हमारे साथ मिस्टर सुधीर नायक, फाउंडर एंड सीईओ NCUBE Semicon Private Limited, for fastest growing semiconductor and ESDM ecosystem in Gujarat. Welcome.
Not this. Earlier. Yeah? Only? Cannot be. How? Okay. Yes, yes. Fine. So, very good morning. I think we are approaching noon. Let me first finish the formality in 30 seconds. I'm very much thankful to Commissioner Sir, Mr. Nagarajan, who is also my dear friend. And I think I had an opportunity to host so many events on semiconductor with him. Also, all the dignitaries from central states, Surat municipal commissioners, deputy commissioners, and all of you. I have given 20 minutes, which itself was very, very less for this subject, and now it is further reduced. I will try to do what I can do about it. I want to make sure that whatever time you invest here with me should not go waste, and you should take home something which you might have not dreamed in your life, especially for Surat. I'm going to unfold few things which is not known globally, which Surat is doing. I'm very proud that I am also coming from South Gujarat, and I owe to this land what I have learned from here. As everybody says that Gujis are good businessmen, and they look for marching on the present business, growing this business, and diversification. Classic example today, if you look at it, at Reliance Industries, they are for oil and chemicals. There is a major revenue, I think more than 55% coming from that. But their EBITDA is managed by geo and retail, not by oil. Dalda has gone, Infosys is known. Suchi Semi is a textile company in Surat. Now it is known as a Suchi Semicon. So things are changing, and the way dinosaurs has disappeared, if we don't take this opportunity of changing scenario globally, then I think we will have tough time. We will not disappear, but we will have tough time. Semiconductor is one thing. In Gujarati, એને અર્ધવાહક કહેવામાં આવે છે. And the definition of Sri Nagaraj sir is, it is one thing which I can control the current the way I wish. That is semiconductor. If I want this switch to operate, it will operate. If I don't want to operate, don't want to operate. Semiconductor is pervasive. The way consciousness you don't see, but it impacts. Same thing has happened to semiconductor. Semiconductor, you might have seen radio. If not you, your fathers. It was with a valve. And then the name changed to transistor, primarily because of solid state. So I will just give my introduction that myself, semiconductor transistors, and Gujarat University, we were born in the same year. I have studied my entire life with the valves, vacuum tubes, but I could see this journey. And so I'm very fascinated for this industry. I will not elaborate too much on other things. I will just give you what is semiconductor. That is whole idea is what is in it for us, what is happening in the globe. And the second part is for another 5 minutes, what is it that I'm talking to unfold for Surat people and for Gujarat people. I'll leave this, but I think this is critical. Unless until you get it is something like this. If you want to go to Surat station, then you have to know where you are standing. Then you can decide the path. Likewise, if you want to understand semiconductor, you should know how the semiconductor is made. And this is the complete journey of semiconductor. You see the sand? So that is the mother earth has silicon. It is pure, purification is done, and cylinder is made, which is called ingot. Then it is diced into wafer. At present, 300 mm, 12-inch wafers of silicons are most optimal for manufacturing the chips. This goes to the foundry. They call it a foundry fab, where people like my company who design, if the customer comes to us, he wants to design certain chips or a module. So he gives the specs, we design, and that is embossed on these silicon wafers. That is done by Tata. They are putting a first plant of 28 nanometer to 110 nanometer chips in Dholera. The investment is in the range of 1 lakh crore. We were very early in putting up the manufacturing facility. You might have heard Mohali name, semiconductor SCL. It was the first before TSMC. I don't want to go into the reasons, but somehow others it didn't work the way we wanted to have it. But we had some idea, especially for aerospace and defense and other industries. It was there in Mohali. Now Tata is putting up the fab. There are few more projects. What you manufacture here, the chip design, when it is embossed in fab, the output is going to the people who are called OSAT or packaging. You see the black packet cover on this. It is changing very rapidly. And there are a lot of plants in the country around that actually. And that is given to, I don't want to go into details, but that goes to the PCB and you make the system and then you deliver it. This is the overall picture. This will at least 1 hour job to explain. I will also cut short on this, but you have to understand that what is semiconductor ecosystem? It is made of 4 things. Supply chain is the most complex phenomena for semiconductor industry. I have shown you from sand to silicon. To make this happen, today there is no country, no company in the world that can claim that we are Atmanirbhar. I don't think even in coming 5 years, any nation or any company can say that I am Atmanirbhar. It is so complex. From sand to silicon, it travels almost 50,000 kilometers. It passes through 40 to 70 gates, nations. Then it comes in your hand. There are certain unique things like lithography machine. I just give you one example. That is made by one company in Netherlands. The cost is for small nodes, 2 nanometer or 5 nanometer is 400 million. It has 7 lakh parts. It has a 20,000 plus suppliers and it weighs 180 tons. They are the only people. If they stop manufacturing, the entire semiconductor world come to stops for sub nanometers. I'm not going into other details, but this is one example. So supply chain is the most crucial. We are just building it and it cannot be replicated throughout the country. So in my personal opinion, manufacturing fab will be either at 1 or 2 places in the country, because gas and other things which are very crucial for this, they cannot be transferred by air or anything else. So they have to be, seaport is needed and 100 things are there. Most important thing is the purity of all chemicals, gases. There is a 9 times 9, including water. It has to be 99.9999% pure. And pipeline also has to be pure. Otherwise it will get contaminated actually. Capacity building, as somebody was talking for the glass, they have a problem. I think anything new or anything latest you want to do it, no, there is going to be challenge. There is no ready-made solution. It will not exist. You have to build yourself. Like in Fab, there are a lot of courses going on in all universities, and we have already 80,000 people trained, but there is no intensive possible. It is you. See what they have done. All these people like Micron, Tata, they have sent few people abroad where there is facilities there, train them, bring them over here, create mini labs in PDU or nearby place like SVNIT, and build the people. I don't think there is any shortcut. And even if the government to do everything, it's not going to happen. So to build the talent the way you want, I think it is better to write on a clean slate rather than half spoiled slate actually. So I think we will create. So we are creating. There are ODMs who manufactures. So manufacturing chip is a good thing in the country. And the government is giving almost 70% grant. There is no return back. There is no dilution of the equity. There is no interest. If I put up a 100 rupees plant in this semiconductor issues, then 70% is given by government. Only 30% is yours. And you are the malik of 100%. I think there is no other industry this is happening. Why so? There are so many reasons, but I'll give you two reasons. What is important is there that you cannot depend solely on outside. You are going to be in trouble because you might have seen what is happening between US and China, Korea and North Korea and South Korea. All those things are going to create issues which we will not be able to address. Number two, I think I have a slide on that, but why I'm going from here and there to, I want to cover most of the things and give you what is needed. This is the most important slide. You can look at it over here. Maybe I can. So this is the India semiconductor share of semiconductor. 20 is $32 billion. Can I have a speaker? Today, when we are talking, it's in the range of 45 to 52 billion dollars we are consuming, out of which only 8 to 9% is in-source, made in this country. Balance 90% is coming from outside. We are the highest exporter of mobile phone made by Foxconn, but the main chips, we are just assembling. The main components are coming from outside. That is the situation. Now, what is going to happen is that by 2030, India is going to consume $110 billion plus semiconductor. And the electronic goods which are made using these chips, today we are consuming $100 billion worth of semiconductor and electronic goods in this country. By 2030, it will be $400 billion. It will exceed the bill of oil, which we are importing. So this is one of the reasons that why we have taken a call to manufacture this semiconductor chip in this country, and government is giving money for this. I'm not going into all of the details, but globally, it was predicted that the global consumption of semiconductor by 2030, it will go to how many trillions? 1 trillion. In 2026, it has already reached 1.3 trillion. Why so? I think you are a very diverse group, but you have mobile phones, you have memory inside. So memory chips today are not available in the market. The price has gone up twice. Last year, the global consumption was $330 billion. This year, it has become 650. There is no increase in the production. Only one thing has increased, price. Because data center is consuming, not consuming, they are drinking. So this kind of a dynamics are taking place. Today, if you place order for memory chip, which Micron is started manufacturing in the country, they are going to be in demand for this. So this is the only business with so much of certainty one can predict that coming 10 years to 15 years, this is going to grow. There is no other business which you can claim with so much of certainty. I can assure you, I don't mind meeting you every year and rechecking these facts. This business is going to grow significantly irrespective of any government, any policies, any volatility in the world. Can I switch this? Who is here? Can you go to second? Now, what is happening in the globe that you might have seen that everybody talks about data center. Do you know how data centers are defined in terms of storage? How many bytes it can store? But that's the myth. Yeah, it is something like I give the example of pizza. That if I have a freezer which can house 10,000 pizza, and if I have an oven which can take out 10 pizza at a time, then my limitation is not the number of pizzas. So number of pizzas are the bytes, and the oven is the power. So every data center takes millions of liters of water. There's a cooling towers. So main problem in all data centers are the problem of the heat dissipation. And that is where Surat comes into the play. You trust me, guys. Surat is working very silently in replacing silicon with lab-grown diamonds. They are daddas, masters in making lab-grown diamonds. And silently, Surat has come up with a plan, strategy, and investment has been done. Massive investment people have done in Surat to make wafer, which you saw, of 300 by using lab-grown diamonds. Why so? I will go into the details. And because I have cut down so many things, but I wanted to focus on this, what Surat is doing. So I have been connected with many other organizations. So we displayed this in Semicon India, you know, all of you. That happens in Delhi. Once it happened in Ahmedabad also. So there a lot of, everybody comes from the globe. Similar thing happens globally. So I was in August in Europe, in Germany. We were the only company from Surat in the world. Which only company means the people with whom I work. They have produced a 4-inch wafer of diamond as a substrate. And we were the only company in the globe to present that actually, to make the silicons. Same thing. After that, there was a semicon in Japan. Again, it was the only company in the globe who has presented that. I am not saying that these are the only people who are working, but nobody has demonstrated. Now, this is not only about making wafers and silicon, but there are many other uses. For example, if you mix this carbon with, let's say, copper or aluminum, the conductivity changes dramatically. The main point I am driving now actually, the capacity of diamond, carbon C, to dissipate the heat is manifold more than the silicon. So first thing which will happen is all data center energy consumption is going to come down. Number two, you will be able to do much more significant at high speed switching, which is right now restricted. Biggest beneficiary is going to be automotive market. It requires different kind of voltage. You see our mobile and all those things operate at 1.5 volt and all those things. But if you take a charger and other things, your car charger, they require very high voltage. See, there is no match to lab-grown diamond, which is called band gap. It has the highest band gap. So on all parameters, I have a big graph and parameters. I don't want to teach you physics here, but I think what is happening is something unassuming. Nobody has thought of it. Even people, when they're making real diamond polishing, they have also not thought of it, but it has happened. The real beauty comes now. How many of you know quantum computing? Have you heard quantum computing? Okay. So very few, but I will just, madam, you can signal me when, because this will go on. So, see, our classical computers operate on this switch 0 1. Anything you do it, no, ultimately it is 0 1. Whether it is a pixel, video, anything you do it 0 1. And that is why when you have a classical computer, they have a limitation because it cannot go beyond 0 1. So the combination of 0 1, if you want to write a big number, is limited. Against that, let's say you have a coin. So coin has a head and tail. That is exactly 0 1. On that principle, our classical computer operates. Quantum computer operates completely in different world. When you toss the coin, before it comes on the floor or in your hand, it has how many possibilities, probabilities, and number of things. And unless until you see it, when you see, you say it is head. So anything when you observe, it takes the proper state. Till then it is probable state. So how does it matter? Let's say you binary is 2, 0, 1. Now if you take 2 raised to 2, you can keep adding 2 raised to 3, 2 raised to 4, 2 raised to 5. Now if classical computer has to calculate, it has to go through all parameters. Let's say there are 3, 2 raised to 3, 8. So 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, and 8. So it will go to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In quantum computer, it will go to all at a time. So the speed at which quantum works, no, is nobody has thought. It has two more characteristics. One is that it has, I don't know how many of you know about Willow chips. No, I think they have 105 qubits. So this is known as a qubits. That is known as a bits. In quantum, it's known as a qubits. Ultimately, it is semiconductor. Only thing is that when you have to operate in this state, which is between 0 and when it comes to the hand, it is very fragile. It cannot accept any tolerance in the temperature, vibration, magnetic field. It gets disturbed. A lot of error comes. So people have been busy. This is 100 years old story of quantum computing, but it has come to light only in the last 3 years. So you have to operate it at sub-zero, that is minus 273 degrees Celsius. Then and then it operates. So you need a Arabic machine for that. And I think you can hear me. I think that it will not stop. You can hear me, no? Yes, sir. So carbon again plays a very important role here. I will go into carbon if you want. So it can operate at room temperature. Now this is going to the universe. So quantum speaks the language of universe. How I will tell you that how many neurons are there in our brain? Anybody? 32 billion neurons. And the way it is collected, synapse, they are more than 100 trillion. How much power our brain consumes? Any idea? Any guess? 20 watt. And it operates at what? Room temperature. So same thing people want to replicate for quantum computing. If this can do trillions of operations in a second at room temperature, why quantum cannot do it? And that is where we have come to the idea that to use Labrador diamond in making the chip of quantum, it can solve all the problems. So right now it is at laboratory state, by and large, or it is on SAS basis. IBM has developed two quantum computer made because it requires large engines. And there are some companies in Bangalore, so they have made 3 qubit computers. But imagine if you have 105 qubits, what it amounts to, know? It can calculate 2 raised to 105. You will not be able to write this number. Your classical computer cannot write this number. What are the applications? In our body itself is a big laboratory. Okay, I'll take 2 minutes and then finish. So in our body, take vitamins and all those things, whatever reaction take place, you cannot figure out. Our classical computers, what they cannot do in 10,000 years or in 20,000 years, quantum computer will be able to do it in less than 30 minutes sometimes. If I have a stable operation, it can do it in 5 minutes. That is going to be speed of quantum computing. Quantum computing applications are going to be, you will do away with all your SMS for OTP and all those things. That will be done with this thing. You will be able to find out new materials. You will be able to predict weather much better. Because weather, there are hundreds of parameters, and that's why we are not accurate. But if you go to quantum computing, it will happen. Likewise, there are drugs. Today, you are not able to figure out for so many diseases. Quantum computing is going to help big way. It's not going to be available like what you have in your pocket kind of a computer. It will have some complexity, but it will change the scenario. And at the root base of it is going to be lab ground diamond. And that is where Surat is pioneer and sitting. If we don't take advantage of this situation, I think we will be, our next generation will give us fools. Nothing less than that actually. So I think we must wake up, we must play the game. Just doesn't make these numbers looks good as you are talking, the number looks great. And it is fine, fascinating. But what are you doing with this information? Are you going to do this or not? Actually?
Truly said, sir. Truly said. Really great.
So you have to make use of it. There is no. We had a one session already. I was session done with Commissioner Sir, 20th April. We called all the people in the Surat presentation. What is the need for it? And we continue to do that. We have a lot of plans. Let him reveal when it is necessary. I am not going to reveal what plans we are working on, but it is much beyond what these people have suggested. This is kept out of the syllabus. Thank you, guys.
Everyone, put your hands together. For Mr. Nayak, thank you so much for such a great information and
In short time.
yes, in short time. Thank you. Thank you so much for your very much enthusiastic presentation. There is some technical issue in power, but we are having Dr. Purnima Dore with us, founder and CEO of Dorian Scale, visiting reference. So we would like to invite her on the stage. The future is regional, positioning Surat for the next decade for growth. Welcome, ma'am. Yeah, he's trying.
They are working on it. I'll load the presentation, but it will take some time. You have sent the revised presentation as well, right?
The mic is not on.
Mic is you sent the revised presentation.
Not working. Hello? No.
No, it's not.
So let's do one thing. I think with all our high tech lives, technology has decided to kind of take a break for a bit. So I'm going to do one thing. While my presentation is still going to come up, I think I'm going to continue with the conversation and I will refer to my slides on my own, and when they come up, you can take a look at them. fact that this is a shift that is essential to happen if the big growth goals need to be met. जो ट्रिलियन डॉलर्स की बात हो रही थी वो आप सब सहमत होंगे, जब तक हर क्षेत्र में ग्रोथ नहीं होगा वहां तक पहुंचना तो मुश्किल ही है. Many of you run units across the state. Until each unit is profitable and performing well, the slowest one pulls down the speed of the entire operations. So what I would like to place before you is, one, the future is regional. And in that context, positioning Surat for the next decade of growth. आज सुबह से काफी बढ़िया बातें हुई हैं. I think Commissioner Nagarajan placed the context of Surat. Anna Roy ma'am made a beautiful presentation about the economic region plans, and we had Gopal ji share from Mahua's Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. सरकारी स्तर पे भी क्या-क्या efforts हो रहे हैं, and a specific industry example of how semiconductors as a field is advancing. I will try to thread together some of these thoughts in what I will share. One is that the geography of demand has been evolving. We all know that India is not just one market. एक sub-state view की बहुत ज़रूरत है. Even within Gujarat, whenever I have visited, there are views that, this is happening in Ahmedabad, why is it not happening in Surat? This is happening in some part of the state, why not here? Or what is it that needs to happen differently? So the demand which is growing, because India is a growing country, हमारी demography बढ़ रही है, वो अलग-अलग level पे अलग-अलग क्षेत्रों में grow हो रही है. And gradually, as airports, freeways, connectivity is improving, ये जो friction है between goods and services consumption, ये friction कम होने वाला है. वो उस space पे नहीं हो रहा है जितना हम लोग सब चाहते हैं, but हो रहा है. And as that friction falls, people are going to be traveling more. Some of the investments that have been made, which are like the bullet train, like high-speed rail, all of these are going to begin to have payouts in the next 4 or 5 years more visibly, right? And when we look at that, this will happen faster than income and profitability is going to grow. First, that will happen, कुछ आप लोगों ने बहुत correctly share किया था, that until those pegs are in place, it is very hard for growth to be sustained. So at this point, the states are actually very large for us to make any meaningful commentary. And so looking at it at a sub-state level, this is why the Surat economic region and other such regional plans are going to be very important. Which is why, whether it is business community, whether it is academia, whether it is even local town planners, need to understand and get more involved with how some of these things are going to play out. तो हमें बहुत ज़रूरत है कि हम अपनी shared understanding इस चीज़ के बारे में बढ़ाएं, even if it is not involved with our day-to-day work. Because it may not affect it directly today, but if we are able to see and join the dots, we may be able to put some things in place earlier. आप 2 कदम आगे अगर सोचने जाओ कि ये, I was in Surat a couple of months back when and being part of the bullet train and metro discussions. If things go as planned, then 2027 onwards, Surat will be an hour or an hour and a half away from Mumbai. Right? That means accessibility will improve. That means that your ability to maybe even source talent may be higher than what it is today. That means people may plan family life a little differently. कि ठीक है, husband सूरत shift कर सकता है, wife बॉम्बे में रह सकती है, इस तरह जिंदगी शायद चला सकते हैं, जो आज की डेट में बहुत मुश्किल है. Similarly, we may see cases where people are saying that, okay, it is just an hour away or 2 hours away. Maybe we are okay to relocate. Maybe we'll do it for 6-8 months, which means that the speed at which education, hospital, infra has to improve may need to be a little higher to make it worthwhile for people to move. In fact, till I had come and been part of some of those consultations, I did not realize that this change is going to be so imminent in 2-3 years. So, to place before us that these changes are happening, in addition to changes of AI, workforce, and other such things. There are on ground changes of connectivity, of the way fund allocation is happening, of how regional growth is being thought about. And how do we be part of that? How do we restart thinking of our business growth a little differently? And even town planning and other such functions will need to think about more collaboration with each other. And I'll come to why I think that kind of a integrated approach in the years to come is going to be very important. वो करना बहुत मुश्किल है क्योंकि historically हम लोगों ने किया नहीं है, लेकिन धीरे धीरे सबको थोड़े से अपने सोच में वो लाना पड़ेगा अगर इस टाइप का एक्सपोनेंशियल रिफॉर्म हम लोग लाना चाह रहे हैं. So the first thing I will say that is the regional level approach of what we have been hearing since the morning is one of the first of its kind to say that sub-state level planning is going to happen in a more specific, integrated and reviewed manner. And how can you look at the benefits from this and be one of the first to capture it is an interesting thing to think about. Now, why regions matter now? We all know that countries grow through their regions. अगर हम बाहर के देशों का एग्जाम्पल देखें, countries like Korea, Japan, etc., which have had phases of very fast growth, we are expecting to be in that space now. It has happened when some of their regions have grown very fast. They have also suffered when it has not been equitable. कुछ जगहों में हुआ, कुछ जगहों में नहीं हुआ, बहुत अनरेस्ट भी हुआ उस वजह से. तो उसको सोच के करने का एक अपॉर्चुनिटी है. और ऐसा नहीं है कि बहुत लोगों ने इसको बहुत खूबसूरती से किया हुआ है. A lot of people are figuring out how to do it well, right? So we need the best minds to be thinking about this problem statement. Second is that regions grow through coordination. Coordination between business, between government, between even business entities. आप खुद अपने सेक्टर्स में देखोगे कि जहां अपस्ट्रीम डाउनस्ट्रीम फर्म्स ने ज़्यादा अच्छे से कोलैबोरेट किया है वहां आपकी ग्रोथ ज़्यादा हुई है. जहां वो उतना स्मूथली नहीं हो रहा या इंडिविजुअल्स के बीच में वो मेल नहीं है वहां नहीं होता है. That is true, equally true. Why do we believe that systems will behave differently? We are the ones who are making and being part of those systems, right? So this coordination, this glue, and making sure that there is budget for it, there are activities structured for it, it is part of the plan that this network effect will be leveraged. And this coming together is what can convert the potential into better level of competitiveness. अगर मैं इसी, if this logic I bring at a firm level, at a company level, when our different functions are being able to engage faster with each other, that is when we are able to hit higher revenue targets. The same is going to be true at a city and region level also. So if we look at India, Gujarat, South Gujarat, Surat, perhaps in the years past, Surat has looked at itself as a city. Now, with this kind of regional thinking, it is going to be important to think of Surat as a function of South Gujarat and what can Surat do or how can Surat maximize the benefits and how does that interaction happen more? क्योंकि अब एक economic region की बात हो रही है. The same is true as we are rolling up. We had done some research on India's regions, pan-India. And what we realized is that India actually we can look at as a set of 85 regions. The National Sample Survey divides India into subunits and each region here, agar aap isko dekhen, is like a collection of districts. So if we looked a little beyond state level, Gujarat is also a set of regions. Karnataka is also a set of regions. And if we are to take Bangalore's example as the IT hub, Bangalore and the adjacent areas around it are the ones that are growing. Rest of Karnataka, if you were to try to read the map, still has a lot to happen in North Karnataka. अगर overall Karnataka के development की बात हो. So मुद्दे की बात ये है that, hello? Every state, if we looked at India as a collection of states, and every state can be further subdivided into regions where the regional narrative is important to understand and is important to build for together. And ma'am, before you came, I was just sharing that if the future is regional, how we need to collectively start thinking about sub-state as a very important unit. And at a sub-state level, the economic region plans give a pathway to understand and to actually act on it. So far, many times, when we used to discuss some of these outcomes of this research, people used to say, लेकिन उस unit पे कौन है जो कुछ करेगा? You don't have an authority at a sub-state level. Today we have state, and at best we have districts and city municipal corporations. More than 4,000 plus ULBs. Districts are 800 plus. So the big question is, what is the right unit at which planning can meaningfully happen? Many of you on the business side deal with this every day, right? What is the right unit to review where you can actually take a decision and move forward? So we found that the National Sample Survey has actually looked at India, looked at NSS as a frame, looked at which districts are either geographically contiguous, along with similar language, similar agroclimatic zones. That means planning for them, there are some similar conditions, which means planning for them can be done together. And I would see the SER as a live example of trying to do that. Now, when we put this mix, it also tells us that some districts, some regions are more similar, and there is a pattern that is coming. So maybe Surat economic region may have things to learn from or similarities with other regions in India. It is quite possible, given where you are in terms of manufacturing and other capabilities, there will be a lot that other regions may be able to learn from Surat's example in the years to come. Our challenge is sometimes we are so diverse as a country that we don't end up using our cross-learning opportunities enough, क्योंकि हमें या तो पता नहीं है कि कहाँ क्या हो रहा है, या हमारे पास framework नहीं है. So I would like to come to 2 points that were made earlier in the day. I think Anna ma'am spoke about the fragmentation of regional planning. There are no proper frameworks to enable us to do that. And I think Gopalji, you had also mentioned that, how do we bring planning and regional planning as a central part of strategy? And my submission to all of you here is, this is definitely a government question, but this is also a business question. This is also a question for entrepreneurs in India to think. This is also a question for town planners who understand concepts of geography, agglomeration, spatial mapping. You have been trained for this. There has never been a better time than the next 10, 20 years that this training is going to be applied. So please rise up, learn, lead, and connect with each other on how can you be part of some of this or apply what you know to solve for some of this. Because we don't have ready solutions which are there. We have a few that have worked in some countries. Not all of that will be applicable to India. But I genuinely believe that what we try, test, and pilot in India will be very relevant for many developing economies. So I would see some of these efforts at Surat and what you all will do here as game-changing and relevant for many others who will do things going forward. So one thing which India definitely needs, I would submit, is a regional governance layer, where there are ways to converge approvals, there are ways to converge spatial planning at a sub-state level, because state is too large. And I am hopeful that some of these regional efforts will give us pathways. So setting up SHREDA, which has been recommended as part of this, as a first step, and moving fast on it, I think is going to be very important. And once we have a few of these governing bodies at the sub-state level, there will be a pathway to actually have all of them. So our goal should be to have similar ones at a pan-India level. So some of these findings are from our book, Regional Economic Diversity, where what we tried to do was to understand that how do we make sense of India's regional growth from an economic diversity angle. which means economic diversity क्या है, कौन से sectors हैं जहां growth हो रहा है, कौन से sectors हैं जहां नहीं हो रहा है, and is it specialization or is it diversification which is really going to help us as a country. And this has implications on many things. The choice of locations for fresh investment. Where will you set up your new office? Where will you set up the next plant? आप बता रहे थे कि expansion का geography कहाँ होना चाहिए. So many factors that determine that, because those create jobs or take them away. Those determine whether people are seeing a continued future in this geography or not. And so a lot of business leaders also need to take into account a wider set of emerging options, because the geographical landscape is changing even as we speak. So future ready leaders, to my mind, have to understand the many Indias better. We have to build better ways. We have to communicate more. We have to have maybe training programs, consultations, but India's geography is changing so well and so fast that the many Indias, even your sales teams, need to understand this landscape much better. And within government as well, because a lot of implementing this is going to happen when internal stakeholders come together. So the core premise of something like this is that how do we understand a region's ability to experience growth? If we looked at Surat economic region as a case in point, there are two things that influence growth. One is, and this we did a fair amount of research to understand this, one is either industry is choosing to go there or people are choosing to go there. And both need to happen for it to be sustainable. I was very happy to hear the queries that you also posed, because your question was around on the textile front, sir, that if people are not choosing to come there, then what? Because then that means one of our pillars is weak. And it is important as planners to not only think about what will help industry, but also think about what will make people stay. And so both of these pillars need to be part of our plan, need to be part of our budgets, need to be part of what we are tracking and measuring. So if we look at both of these pillars, there is one other angle which comes in, which we try to look at is that, is it specialization or diversification that can help regions like Surat? In many countries abroad, actually specialization has worked. If you look at places like Germany, etc., they are very hardwired towards taking one sector, do it very well. Precision is their core DNA. Interestingly, when we looked at data across India and found that in India, if you look at which sectors are people employed in, we did a measure of an index to build a diversification index. We also tried to measure what is regional economic growth at a regional level. We don't have hard figures for it historically. I'm hoping that will change in the years to come. But we tried to build a measure that what do you measure as regional GDP? And what do you need to put together to measure that? And if you put all of these numbers together, what does it tell you? Interestingly, we found that in India, diversification, at least 3 or 4 sectors doing well in a region, is important. I personally think Surat is an excellent example of that being seen live. You have gems and jewelry, there's textile, there is ancillary manufacturing. And if some of the other 1 or 2 sectors that we heard about since the morning, services as well as healthcare, education, some of these can get built, it means you will have an economic growth base that is really a strong, diversified future. It also means that if one sector does not do well for some time, as we are seeing in the diamond space, there are others that can absorb it. ये पोर्टफोलियो बैलेंसिंग, जैसे हम शेयर मार्केट में अपने पोर्टफोलियोज को बैलेंस करते हैं, ये रीजनल लेवल पे हम वही पैरेलल ड्रॉ कर रहे हैं. तो ये सबको सोचने की जरूरत है. And if industry leaders are able to think about this, not just my business, my sector, my team, but what will help this mix in the next 10 years, then we'll be able to solve for some of this. Interestingly, we also found that beyond the point, diversifying may not help. And so I would like to place a construct which is called specialized diversification. We need to diversify, but we need to find those slices within that where we have strengths. You may not want to touch everything in the value chain, or you may want to touch some parts of that. And if we are able to identify that, now with the plan in place, with some of these sectors identified, which are those sub-segments which can, give outsized returns? That is something to think about. And overall, we also found that India's regions are performing better on HDI and other such indicators also when there are more sectors which are present in the economy. So the fundamental thing then also means that this economic growth kind of an approach can help raise many other parameters. We have to do it very intelligently. We have to do it in a way that looks at climate, that looks at health, and brings in those pools so that we don't forget this in trying to cater to the industry narrative. So if we look at the Surat economic region, diverse industries definitely as a strength. I would now try to, I think a lot has been said about the industrial plan itself. So I'll come to what is Surat's inherited advantage. And Commissioner Nagarajan spoke about this in the beginning. But as someone who travels a lot pan-India, I would agree with one statement that what you may take as the baseline may actually be very desirable for many other people. And so if one sees that as a strength and builds on it, that then means that it can be a springboard for more of what you can do. वो कहते हैं ना कि खुद को अगर आप जान लो तो फिर आप और अच्छे से उसको निखार सकते हो. This is like that. One is the enterprise culture, manufacturing depth. There are very strong value chains that already exist, and many of you have been leading the charge on that in your sectors. There is a very strong work ethic, even while there is migration. Many places suffer where migration is there and the work ethic is very bad, and so they are not able to build their businesses in a sustained way. Surat may have had its ups and downs, but overall, if you look at it, the work ethic is very good. You already have strong global market linkages. Export forms a significant share of revenue, income. It's not something that you need to build. And private capital and speed. People and regions take years to learn this and figure this out. This is there over here. So if this is Surat's inherited advantage, then, and we also look at Surat as being more than a city. Because this kind of regional economic, if we believe genuinely that the future is regional, then we should start thinking of Surat as more than a city. It is also, this may be the core city. There are industrial clusters. There are things where you have your logistics in the neighborhood. The entire SER plan also maps out some of these clusters. Where is your labor catchment? Where are your markets? That is actually your reach. So if we looked at Surat as a production base, as a labor market, as a trade network, and as an infra corridor, which means connectivity must improve. I think the questions asked today on connectivity was spot on, because no region is able to grow if people can't get there, if investors can't see your operations. देखने से ही लोग पैसा डालेंगे. तो बहुत simple सी बात है. Infra and connectivity, and a lot has moved. To be very honest, I think a lot has moved in the last several years, but we need to accept that this is an important pillar, not leave it to chance or not leave it to delays, etc. Places that have not built infra well have suffered a lot because of it, because then very good talent leaves. And I will come to this, which I think is going to be the base, which is the institutional ecosystem. What can be that robust institutional ecosystem that helps make this Surat economic region plan a reality? And that I would see many people in this room being closely involved in it. It not being a one-way government to industry kind of conversation, but it being a shared, co-created kind of reality. And the next decade is going to test every region. Nobody is going to be left untouched by the kind of changes that we are seeing. If I look at some of the eastern and central belts, which have historically had mines, mining, all of that as part of their core growth narratives, every company owner is worried about the changes with the climate, what green energy is going to mean, how do they need to restructure their operations. Maybe they will need to invest a lot more. How is government policy, how can government policy move fast enough to absorb some of these? This is real everywhere. And so technology shift, climate pressure, skills transition, reconfiguration of supply chains. I think what we are seeing globally is a very clear indication of that. And quality of life expectations. This has definitely changed a lot. I think I don't need to say more about how young people are thinking about their lives and their future. But it is a reality that we have to factor into any planning that we do. I think voting also happens based on whether people are happy across these parameters or not, right? So, therefore, we need to, I would urge also to think beyond sector promotion. A lot of industry government conversations are about sector promotion. How do we promote our sector? But to also move to system design. How will the system be designed so that one can look at productivity enhancements, one can look at how the ecosystem will move together, how infra can lead to resilience, and how data collection can actually also lead to better, more intelligent delivery. I was so impressed. I had the opportunity to go and visit the Command and Control Center. And I think Surat has one of the best smart city command and control centers over here. So my compliments to the team for having built that. आप लोगों ने नहीं गए तो please find an opportunity to visit it. But that means that that base is there. And that can be built to, look at delivery intelligence differently. So I think the question to go back to is what would make the Surat economic region globally legible, where people can see it, understand it, be willing to invest in it, and want to partner more. And what needs to therefore happen here to facilitate some of that. And I would see some of these pegs as a very clear regional narrative, reliable data, bankable projects, a good talent pipeline, sustainability credentials, and strong institutions. Some of the things we've been thinking about with the work I do is around regional growth labs. Does each region need to have a growth lab which looks at research, policy insights, better collaboration, evidence building, where one thinks about the economic diagnostics, what is happening, can data inform what one does better, can industry, government, and knowledge reinforce each other, and looking at pilot initiatives, capacity building to move up the narrative. So I would think that for programs like this to happen, there needs to be a compact where various players join hands and agree that there is this shared regional agenda. What can we do to solve for it? And as I was looking at the plan, things that could be immediate next steps which made some of this happen. So to conclude, I think a possible, some of the ambition for this, I think 2047 would be the year. But if we were to think about, I would pose it as Surat economic region to be a job-rich region, a climate-ready region. And you can add your wish list or factor in how you would see it. But some things that came to my mind were a globally connected, even more globally connected region than it is today, digitally governed, which makes it easy for people in seats of responsibility to make things happen. And an inclusive enterprise region, where enterprises can come up with, building their network and solutions better. So overall, I think Surat does have these ingredients. The future for the world and definitely for India is going to be regional. And we have some excellent efforts now which have started with, you know, what we heard in the morning. The city economic region plan again puts the spotlight on this. Recently, ma'am, you and your team had released something on million plus cities. So gradually there is a lot of policy lens coming onto these things. And so there is a case to actually come together to look at solutions better. I would think what this requires to happen on ground, one is regional governance, having good, strong governance mechanisms like Shreda coming into place, which can deliver as well as review and unlock barriers to plans. Second is specialized diversification, going deeper into which subsets will actually unlock value, and having the holistic approach, which includes the people part in addition to industry, which means health, education, connectivity, what makes lives easier, what makes cities more livable. And if we want growth at 2047, then a lot of that has to begin now. So thank you so much. I will conclude now. And I think we had have our colleague from Janagra, which does a lot of work on livability. So I will hand over the stage to them. Thank you so much.
थैंक यू सो मच डॉक्टर पूर्णिमा डोरे. उन्होंने एक ड्रीम की तरह सूरत को यहाँ पे एस्टेब्लिश किया और बड़ी ही अच्छे से डेडिकेटेडली ये प्रेजेंटेशन दिया. एक बार जोरदार तालियां इनके लिए. डॉक्टर पूर्णिमा डोरे was with us. And now I would like to invite Mr. Surjit Abare, urban designer, Janagra Foundation, a city system approach to growth and livability. Welcome, ma'am.
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. I assume it's been a long 3 hours. I'll try to keep it as short as possible. I'm Suryatapa. I am from Janagraha, which is a 25... oh, something happened? Yes. It is a 25-year-old not-for-profit based out of Bangalore. I think there's some connectivity issue. Okay, it works. Yes, thank you. Perfect. Thank you so much. So Janagra is a 25-year-old not-for-profit based out of Bangalore that works on the agenda of transforming quality of life in Indian cities. It affects large-scale system change through the aspects of urban planning and design, urban governance, and public finance. We primarily work with the constitutional bodies, union, state, multiple state governments, some city governments, and yes, some city governance. And in the past, we have partnered with the 13th, 14th, 15th, and 16th Finance Commission, the CAG of India. We are currently partnered with, collaborating with Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, Niti Aayog, and the Comptroller and Auditor General of India on various national level urban reforms. The reason I'm saying this and stating this baseline about Janagraha is because we are not, we don't come here today as city experts for Surat. I think our understanding of Surat is definitely way lesser than most of the people present in this room. But we understand city systems very well. So that's, I think, the lens that we will be taking to present today. And I would like to start with a very high level, India level scenario, but obviously Surat sits very firmly within this narrative, right? If we are to look at, we all know that India's growth is going to be largely urban. Urbanization in India is standing somewhere by different estimates between 36 to 84%, depending on the method that we are using to measure that. But what is a little bit more, let's say, worrisome is the fact that even though that growth is urban, even though India is urbanizing at a very fast rate, we are not seeing the productivity levels that a lot of other countries that are urbanizing at the same pace or at the same levels of urbanization might be seeing. So especially if you look at this chart, all the blue dots are your G20 economies, and compared to that, India's GDP per capita is relatively low, especially if you look at the degree of urbanization. And we have mapped roughly three definitions, right? There's the census definition. There's a World Bank estimate that situates us as some 50% urban, and the UN, the recent UN urbanization method that states that puts us at some 84% urban. But despite that level of urbanization, the wage premiums that the country has or the GDP per capita that we have is significantly lower. But that is, I mean, we all understand that, yes, okay, the productivity is not matching, but urbanization does come with a lot of benefits. And this has been well researched, well established. This is a map, this is a graph that maps all of the states in India as per their urbanization level, and what is the commensurate percentage of people living in multidimensional poverty. And this yellow line that you see is the trend line that's going out, right? So typically, the more a state urbanizes, the lesser the number of people that's going to live in abject poverty. This is a very well established fact. If you see the large red dot is Gujarat, it's slightly above the trend line, which means it's doing a little bit worse than it should ideally at this point with the level of urbanization, which is 47.7% for Gujarat, compared to other states, let's say in the same category, like let's say Tamil Nadu, which is again close to 50% urban, but it is below the, in terms of multidimensional poverty, it is definitely below the trend line, which is a good thing. So while Gujarat is in the right direction, there is still some scope for improvement. Not in terms of how it is urbanizing, but in terms of the quality of urbanization that it has. So this is the conversation that we have been having since morning, that it is not just the fact that you have economic growth, but what is the quality of life that you bring? What is the quality of urban life that you bring with that economic growth? And historically, globally, there's enough evidence to suggest that if you don't factor in this quality of life right at the upfront when you're planning for that economic growth, it will cost cities their future. So there will be an inflection point where the productivity and the potential for growth could potentially stall, or it will stagnate at least to a certain extent. This is where Janagraha's concept of city systems approach comes in, because when we are looking at quality of life, or when we are looking at what we understand by quality of urbanization, in most cases across the country today, our immediate response is to treat symptoms. There's traffic congestion, we build more flyovers. There's housing shortage, we come up with more schemes. All of this is well and good, but are they actually solving anything is sort of the fundamental question. So here we say that if you want to solve for better quality of life in Indian cities, there are three fundamental things that you need to solve for, foundational things that you need to solve for. One is decentralized participatory governance. How empowered is your city to take and make decisions to get, so something Gopalji spoke about was the 74th constitutional amendment, which gave power to urban local governments. It devolved some 18 powers to urban local governments. Now, obviously, he also mentioned all of that is not devolved. But the essence for that was that cities should be able to take decision of the space that it governs, right? So that's one of the first things that we need to solve for, but not just in terms of who your mayor is, whether your mayor is elected at a proper frequency of 5 years, etc., but also who your councillors are and whether they're empowered. Do you know who your ward councillor is, and are they helping you in taking decisions for your local ward or your neighborhood? The second is planning and design. This, I think, Ms. Anna also spoke about, that we need to think about planning and design both from an economy perspective and also from a special planning perspective. The EMP also very nicely covers that. But planning and design largely in the case of India has been a one-size-fits-all approach, i.e. you're planning for Surat the same way you might be planning for Bharuch, which doesn't make sense because the two are very different cities, very different contexts. So you need to start thinking about what is the place that you're planning for and how do you plan for that. The third thing is state capacities. All of this is only getting solved if your state has the capacity or the city has the capacity to deliver. So do you have finances? Are funds coming in? And then do you have the capacity to utilize those funds? Does your city actually have the capacity to utilize the funds that's coming in? Does your city have skilled staff? Does it have technical competences to solve for the problem that it's facing. Some of these things are only solved through state capacity. So when we solve these three foundational things, I think a lot of the symptomatic changes, symptomatic issues that we see in terms of some of which we're speaking about in the room as well, right? That we don't have the right kind of talent coming in, etc. Perhaps a lot of those would also be solved. Now, Surat is obviously in the right trajectory. It is one of the fastest growing cities, economies in the world. Definitely in India, it's growing. Its annual rate of growth is faster than that of Bangalore and Chennai, and reasonably higher than the national average at this point. Contributes significantly to the GDP of the state, to its workforce. Per capita income is significantly higher. And obviously, the economic master plan reflects that ambition and the vision. It is capitalizing on a very important or being situated at a very important point in time, right? That right now, if this is where Surat is and if this is what the potential is, then if we plan, then we'll obviously get better productivity and develop better. But one thing to note here is that even as we have the economic master plan, what's happening in and around Surat in the region is that growing positively is something for us to reflect on. So Surat in the last 20 years has had a 73.3% increase in the built-up area around the city, which is pretty much a trend about how other cities that with growing economies are seeing. For example, Bangalore had almost 1,000% increase in 20 years, so Surat is definitely doing better in that regard. The problem is if this growth is planned or whether it's in the form of a sprawl. So one thing for us to understand is the built-up area will increase. It's not okay to expect that the built-up area won't increase because we want people to come in. We want the city to urbanize more. So obviously they will need more place to stay. But the solution should be that it should be developing in a planned manner. So in this case, if the sprawl is not planned, there are obvious issues that we see in terms of the utility costs that people pay when they live in the peripheries. 70%, 75% higher water bills, 50% higher, 50% less access to piped water supply than your core areas. And it's almost like it's an obvious observation that a lot of people make, that your serviceability of plots is way better in the center than in the peripheries. So this is because that the development is not happening in a planned manner. But interestingly, what we also find is we did a study across 4 cities, 4 Indian cities for urban poor women in Delhi, Bangalore, Guwahati, and Mumbai, and nearly 70% of the women we interviewed, unemployed women we interviewed, said that they chose not to participate in the economy because the work was either too far for them or they did not have affordable commute to their places of work, which means that when we are not thinking of this planned development, we are structurally keeping people away from the economy. So that's something for us to think about when we think of economic growth. And 3 systemic issues why all of this sprawls on unplanned development might be happening is, number 1, because there is no single custodian for the city today. 2, when we are planning for growth and livability is more often disconnected. I think Surat is in the right direction in that regard. And 3, what I spoke about, right? All cities are taking a very one-size-fits-all approach to planning and governance. So double-clicking on the first one, there is no single custodian for the city. We looked at just one sector within Surat, mobility, right? So you have many different sectors within the city. You have energy, you have transportation, you have housing, etc., etc. We just looked at mobility. Within mobility, just road construction. So just within mobility, you have 12 agencies working within the city, right? And within that itself, if you just look at road construction and maintenance, you have 7 agencies with decision-making powers on what happens to roads within the city. That is PWD, that is SMC, that is SUDA, etc., right? This sort of denotes, this is what we mean by that there is no single decision making, there is no single custodian for the city who has the executive rights to understand, with obviously understanding from the citizen, that what is happening within the city. The other example that comes to mind is quite relevant here is special economic zones, right? India has some over, I forget the number, but over 200 SEZs. I'm going to say each SEZ is each SEZ employs some 11,000 people. So obviously, extremely high economic potential that SEZs bring, right? But they do not. SEZs are primarily governed by the state. They don't actually come under the ambit of ULGs anywhere with anywhere around the country, which means that. While the financial benefits of having SEZ goes to states, the responsibility for providing housing, utilities, water supply, any sort of infrastructure comes to the cities. So it's not really a win-win for anyone, especially in other cities. The second thing is planning for growth and livability is disconnected. Here we have examples around the country to show what happens when this happens. You take the example of Gurgaon, you take the example of Bangalore, you take the example of Pune. Everyone will tell you the same. Gurgaon, for example, it was established in the 1990s, but its municipal corporation only arrived in 2008. By the time, a lot of the development had already done, but not in a very planned manner. So Gurugram today repeatedly floods. There's a simple monsoon shower, and the city is at a standstill. Local government elections first happened in 2011. That's like decades after it was established, right? It's the same thing with Pune. So when the MIDCs came in, because they did not plan for how those MIDCs would accommodate a lot of the people that are coming now from around the country to stay there, we ended up seeing a lot of there was a lot of sprawl. Utilities were not there was not enough serviceability of land. The recent Guillain-Barre outbreak that happened last year, many people died, is a perfect example of what happens when planning for economic growth and livability is not connected. The third is that cities are taking a one-size-fits-all approach. So in this, within this economic region in Surat, you have 6 districts, of which obviously Surat is the nucleus, right? So Surat has the urbanization rate of 70, almost 80%. But if you look at Valsad, Bharuch, Navsari, they have roughly 30 to 40% urbanization, and Tapi and the Dans have very low levels of urbanization, which means that the kind of livability planning that we are doing for this area also has to take into consideration this aspect, right? How are we planning for Tapi? The Dangs obviously are completely forested, so it's going to be more around ecotourism as it's mentioned in the EMP. But how are we planning for Tapi and the Dangs cannot be the Dang cannot be the same as how we are planning for Surat. You need to have a very tailored approach to how we are looking at it. So there are 3 big shifts that I think Surat can implement today that could unlock and sustain, hopefully in the next 2 to 3 decades to come, its true growth potential. The first is that in the economic regions governance model, which today is under STREDA, has to protect the local priorities while promoting regional growth. So if you look at this pyramid, starting from the union down to the ward, you have different levels of decision-making power related to the economic master plan that's happening from the union down to, I would say, the ULG level that's involved today. But its impact will be felt also on the local neighborhoods and wards. The moment you unlock economic growth, which I think Surat is obviously seeing today, right? You will have a lot of local economies pop up, and the decision for accommodating those local economies and the livability around this, how it affects your neighborhood or the street in front of your house, that has to be solved at the ward level. So right now, maybe the councillors and wards are not 100% integrated, but they have to be integrated in this decision-making process. The second is that the economic and special planning process has to converge. They can't be sequential. We can't have the economic plan first or the infrastructure plan first and then have the second follow-up later. But this means is that, okay, we have the economic, typically the process, and this might not be true for the EMP, but the typical process for economic plans is you have the economic plan drawn up, then you have land use conversion, then you have investments coming in, then you think about what infrastructure needs to needs to come in, but by the time investments come in and people are already located in the town, your infrastructure is too late to play catch up, right? So livability obviously lags by decades. It's visible in almost a lot of cities in the country. In the parallel planning process, which is proposed in the economic master plan, right? You have a range of regional level infrastructure, but you also have a very sharp list of projects that need to be done to implement the economic master plan. However, we also need to think about what's happening at once those projects come in, what's happening ward to ward and neighborhood to neighborhood in all of this 6 districts. So if we just look at, like, let's say this hub and spoke model of Surat, and then you have Bharuch, Navsari, Valsad under one category, and Tapi and the Dans. And the intent is for regional economic growth and job creation, quality of life and global destinations. And for specifically for cities like districts like Tapi, maybe to act as district headquarters serving surrounding rural regions. What is the type of planning? What is the type of very contextual planning that we need? These are some ideas in that regard, right? So for Surat, what it absolutely needs to look at now is compact connected growth, which means that how do you densify keeping in mind the infrastructure carrying capacity? So we either increase the infrastructure carrying capacity and then densify, or we curb densification to a certain extent. But with this HSR proposals that's coming up, we really need to think about how do we think very strategically about densification of certain corridors, densification of city centers, so that you're reducing commuting distance between different parts of the city, implement development control regulations or amend development control regulations to reflect the future planning or the future growth potential of the city. So if you want growth to happen in a certain area, in a certain direction, then you need to amend the development control regulations. These are a set of tools that govern how special development happens across the city, to think in that way, right? And then, of course, something that Gujarat is a pioneer in, plan urbanization in greenfield peri-urban areas using TP schemes. And like Mr. Nagarajan mentioned, it's already being thought of in the HSR zone. The second is transit-oriented development, again, very important, not just for the HSR zone, but also because Surat now has a metro that's going to get inaugurated, I think, by October. So if you have the metro coming up, then we do need to leverage what's happening in the first and last mile of the metro. Are you even able to walk up to the metro station? Today, are you able to walk up to your BRT station? Surat still has a very highly operational BRT, right? So how do you focus on TOD, not just for the high-speed rail, not just for the bullet rail, but also for the metro, also for bus rapid transit? Any form of rapid transit that you have in the city should have a TOD proposal. The third is livable neighborhoods. What's happening in front of your house? What's happening within the 2-kilometer radius where you live? Because it's not just about work. It's also about the kind of people. I think a big reason why people are willing to live in cities like Mumbai or Bangalore, despite the infrastructure conditions there, is because you have recreation and leisure accessible within 2-kilometer radius of where you're living. So you also need to think about whether you have access to a park, whether you have access to a school, whether you have access to an Anganwadi center, how walkable your street is. So some of these things have to be thought ward to ward, neighborhood to neighborhood level within Surat. And the fourth one is, because if you ultimately Surat's goal, I don't think is just to compare or become a national pioneer, right? It should be to become a global pioneer. And the direction of thinking that we heard since morning is obviously towards that, coming up with really big innovations around, let's say, the semiconductor industry. So if Surat wants to be a global pioneer, it also needs to have the kind of public spaces, marquee public spaces that can attract that kind of attention today. So that's something that, from both a growth and livability perspective, the city should probably be thinking about. Now, what happens for districts or cities in urban centers within Bharuch, Navsari, and Valsad? Here, I think, again, it has to, the planning has to play to the potential of what the cities bring in. So if Valsad is like a chemical hub, then it has to think in that regard. If Navsari is a heritage town, it also has to capitalize on that capitalize on that form of development, right? But then within that, keeping that in mind, how can we again have like neighborhood to neighborhood? You have appropriate density, you have appropriate access, you have possible access to all your basic amenities and services, and you promote mixed use development in a very tailored manner, thinking that, okay, this city needs this kind of development, so this is where mixed use has to come in, etc. The second thing is 100% walkability. We suggested this for Bharuch, but I think this applies for Surat as well. I didn't see a lot of footpaths, unfortunately, on my way from the hotel to this venue. Walkability is not, it's almost like we can't do without it in some ways, right? Because you just look at Surat's comprehensive master plan, 47% of the city still walks. So you're not really building footpaths for a future possible walking population. You're building it for the people who are already walking. And that you need to maintain that. Ultimately, how are you going to walk? I mean, even if you want to go to, let's say, the general store in your corner, or you want to go to the bus station, or you want to go to the metro station, and you want to have the first and last mile, you will have to walk. There is no other solution other than walking. And walking, if you don't have walkability, it really undermines the growth potential and the livability potential of your city. So this is a given, not just for these three cities, but definitely for Surat as well. Understanding also that because this Bharuch, Navsari and Valsad, today it might be the urbanization rate is slow, but it is at an opportune moment to understand that what is the adequate housing stock that you will need for the next couple decades, and how do you plan for in advance. Again, Surat is a pioneer in affordable housing, so it's a learning, it's a cross learning that some of these districts can take. And finally, these cities are at an opportune moment where we need to protect the blue-green infrastructure, because conditions of urban flooding, conditions of extreme heat are becoming so common that thinking in advance is obviously going to save us a lot of money than trying to solve for it in the future. And finally, for the urban centers in Tapi and Dang, I think especially for Tapi might be just to look at it as nodes for the entire district. So how do you create very tangible infrastructure like healthcare, like schools, like bus terminals, railway stations, that can serve as a connectivity mode for the entire district? So if we are to think about this differentiated way of development and planning in each of these districts, and I think we can really bank on the potential of growth for these areas. So ultimately, I think just to summarize and close this, and this is not something that only we are saying, everyone is saying this, growth and livability, they're not two separate things, they're two sides of the same coin. And if we want economic growth, we have to bank right from the get-go on livability. Very quickly summarizing, what does that mean in terms of what to do? Empower your local government, plan for the place, think about what this place needs today, tomorrow, 20 years in the future, and then plan for it. And ultimately ensure that both in the public and the private space, you have the right skills and the right competences. So that means that today, if Surat does not have an urban design cell, I'm speaking as an urban designer, there's a bias, but if today's urban design cell, because your urban planner is not going to design your roads, it's not going to design your parks and playgrounds. And cities around the world are quickly catching up. Bangalore has an urban design cell, Odisha has an urban design hub. It is high time for Surat to start to think that it does need an urban design if you want that quality of life, right? You need landscape planners, you need utility experts, you need stormwater experts, right? Structural experts. So whether your corporation has the right kind of skills and capacities and intensities is as much important to think as when you think that whether your private capital pool has the right kind of skills and capacities. So yeah, that summarizes my presentation. Thank you. Happy to answer any questions if there are.
Thank you so much, Ms. Ray, for your insightful presentation and your gracious presence. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. This one. Oh, yeah, okay. With hearts full of knowledge and minds inspired, we conclude today's seminar. Thank you so much, all distinguished guests, all dignitaries, for your valuable presence and your presentation. Before we conclude, we would like to felicitate and reciprocate our feelings to all the distinguished panelists. And so that I would like to invite all distinguished panelists on the dais. Ms. Anna Roy, Advisor, Niti Aayog, Government of India. Mr. Gopal Prasad, IRS, Economic Advisor, Mohua, Government of India. Please do that. Mr. Sudhir Nayak, Founder and CEO, NCUBE, Semicon Private Limited. Dr. Purnima Dore, and Ms. Surjatya Ray, Urban Designer, Janagra. Now, I request Mr. Dinesh Gurav, DYMC, Surat, to please come forward and felicitate with this beautiful handcrafted memento in this seminar. This is Vibrant Gujarat Regional Conference, South and Central Gujarat Summit 2026. Once again, I request Mr. Dinesh Gurav to please felicitate, and Mr. Gopal Prasad, IRS Economic Advisor. Mohua. Sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry, sir. Please. Now requesting Ms. Swati, Deputy Municipal Commissioner of Surat, to please come forward and felicitate Dr. Purnima Dore. Mr. Manish Doctor, Deputy Municipal Commissioner, sir, Surat, I request you to, sir, please come forward and felicitate Mr. Sudhir Nayak, Founder and CEO, NCUBE Semicon Private Limited. Everyone put your hands together and let's say big thank you to all distinguished guests. Once again, I request Mr. Doctor to please felicitate Ms. Ray, Urban Designer, Janagra Foundation. वाइब्रेंट गुजरात हमारे भारत के माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी के विजन से, उनकी दीर्घ दृष्टि से एक ऐसा आह्वान, एक ऐसी शुरुआत, और आज 2026 का ये रीजनल वाइब्रेंट गुजरात हम भारत देश को एक इनक्रेडिबल इंडिया से द मोस्ट पावरफुल कंट्री ऑफ वर्ल्ड बनाना चाहते हैं, और उसी की दिशा में आगे बढ़ाते हुए आज के सेमिनार को यहाँ पर संपन्न करते हैं और हमारे देश के प्रति हमारी इस भावना को प्रस्तुत करते हैं इस नेशनल एंथम के जरिए. एवरीबॉडी प्लीज राइज अप.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता. पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा. विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा. तव शुभ नामे जागे, तव शुभ आशीष मागे. गाहे तव जय गाथा. जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता. जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे.
हमेशा ही हिंदुस्तान की जय हो और हिंदुस्तान एक सुपर पावर बने, ऐसे ही शुभकामनाओं के साथ फिर से एक बार सभी का हम रोज स्वीकार करते हैं. थैंक यू सो मच एवरीवन, थैंक यू सो मच. जय, बिल्कुल इसी तरह से जय जय गर्वे गुजरात एंड जय हिंद. गुजरात का 66 स्थापना दिवस भी 1 मई को हमने सेलिब्रेट किया, वो भी सूरत में. Thank you so much all participants of the seminar. On behalf of Surat Municipal Corporation, myself Divya Thakkar, signing off. Jai Jai Garve Gujarat, Jai Hind.